Hello, hello, and hello. I'm the S.O.C.K, aka Sun Punch Maximum 9000. And I'm here today joined by, I guess you guys can go introduce yourselves and everything.
I am DM Dungeon Mastery. My actual name is Anthony, so you guys can memorize me as that. I have a YouTube channel where I focus mainly on making D&D 5e creature stat blocks, trying to make them better. So this is actually the perfect kind of video where I can tear into some of the ones that are the most egregious offenders of having just the most boring, horrible stat blocks, and some that actually have some pretty decent stat blocks. So, hello.
I am Dungeon Lord J. I also have a YouTube channel where I live stream and post videos for my campaign, The Descent. I also post a couple of DM advice videos, and I'm ready to get into it. I have some pretty controversial opinions on these here monsters.
We're definitely going to get into it. And yeah, that's just going on the topic for today's video. Today we're going to be, I kind of think tier lists are probably the most like superior form of ranking and stuff. Because like when you don't, when you don't know particularly whether you want to rank something above something else, just having it in like a group, I feel like makes sense. And also, I just kind of wanted to hop on that trend because I listen to tier list videos all the time. But I won't rant too much. We're going to be ranking the different monster types, going through and explaining our rankings and any particular monsters we like and stuff. But without further ado, getting into it, we're going to go ahead and start with beasts. So, how do you guys feel about the beast category for monsters?
Okay, so I will put beasts pretty low on the list.
Hmm.
Honestly, I honestly have to put beasts in C tier. I have to. As much as I want to say that there are some cool beasts out there, there are some really bad ones, like the fire beetle. I think
Hmm.
that's like one that just really it's called a fire beetle, and it has nothing on its stat block that
Yeah,
represents it's
it
a
just has a
fire
bite
beetle.
attack, right? That's
Oh,
all it
Yeah,
has.
I'm pretty sure. Like that's probably one of the most boring stat blocks, especially if you're like a dungeon master and you're trying to describe the beetle has this glowing under part to its carapace and it crawls
hmm.
towards you and then it bites you. It's like, oh no, do I take fire damage? No, it just does like a D4 piercing damage. So, that's about yeah. I'm putting beasts in C tier because of that. I think my
Hmm.
favorite beast. I don't know if you want to go into like is this what you want us to do? Talk about like our favorite beasts
Oh
too?
yeah, no. If you have like a particular creature, you don't have to do it for each type. If they're just a creature type where you're just like everything about this is an abomination to me. Um, you don't have to, but yeah, no. If you have a
I
particular one, yeah.
I think the this is like if I had to pick one that would say has a lot of capability in terms of things they could do, I think like apes and giant apes have
Hmm.
like they can at least throw rocks, so they're a beast with a ranged attack,
Yeah.
and they can, they have mobility. They can climb trees. They have a climbing speed. They have a punch attack, and if like you have a giant ape, they actually do a absolute metric ton of damage. Like and you can King Kong grab somebody and run away with them. So
Hmm.
I think apes are actually probably some of the highest in the beast category if I had to pick one that I like the best in terms of versatility. But that's my opinion.
They could also show up, and they're like one of the creatures where you can have a group of them show up and stuff. So it's a little bit easier if you're going up against a party. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Jay, what do you think about beasts?
So I have to ask, did Anthony, did you have did you go S to C or did you go S to D?
Just S to C, I think.
All right, well, I did a D tier.
Okay.
Um, just because I felt like some of them couldn't hang out with some of the other ones. So
Hmm.
I ended up going with the D tier. And I just wanted to, before I get all of my rankings, I based off of a criteria.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to like talk to you guys about my criteria, and then that will inform all of my other
Yeah.
decisions going forward. So my criteria was variety and versatility of monsters, relevance in tiers of play,
Hmm.
role play and narrative potential. That also kind of bleeds into lore and flavor. Like, are they fucking cool?
Yeah.
And the other one is like, would it be cool to fight as a player? Right? Like, it would the player's perspective.
Hmm.
So that's my criteria. So going off of that as my criteria, I put beasts in the D tier, my bottom tier, because I think that there is a lot of variety, not a lot of relevance in tiers of play. Like the strongest thing you're gonna fight is like a T-Rex or something, like something
Yeah,
that's just a big monster,
like a
right?
dire
But
wolf
it's
or something. Yeah.
your dire
Yeah.
wolf, right? Um, when I ranked them, I did it all live with my friend Eric, and he was trying to make a case for giant spiders because, like, how classic is a giant spider,
Hmm.
right? But I still, in my opinion, there's not a lot of lore there. It's just an animal. So I ranked them in D tier, bottom rung. Um, I couldn't think of any cool. My favorite one, T-Rex.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs,
You know
dinosaurs.
what? Honestly, I think that instead of putting insects in with beasts, they should have just had an insectoid class of
Yeah,
creatures
no, that
because I
definitely
do
makes
agree
sense.
that like spiders are pretty iconic with
Right.
they're scary. Theirs are probably the scariest beasts because they have a really nasty poison bite that
Hmm.
usually is pretty deadly at lower levels. But like you said, like once you get up to the higher tiers of play, you can't challenge 20th level players with beasts unless you're like, all right, guys, 100 T-Rexes come stomping
Right,
out of the jungle at you
exactly.
or something.
And another thing about giant spiders that kind of make them cool is they engage with different parts of the system, right? Like you get grappled or restrained by the web, and then okay,
Hmm.
now you have a disadvantage or advantage and whatnot. You know what I mean? So it does make the combat a little more interesting than like a fire beetle comes up and you roll
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
d20, add 3. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
I'll also say anything with wings also adds another dynamic of play. So like if you could have like I guess a giant eagle would fit in there too, because anything that has the threat of flying in, picking up somebody and flying away with them, or just
Mm,
flying 800 feet up and just dropping them, that's
Yeah.
pretty terrifying. But
yes.
you have to play as a meaner DM, and some DMs don't like to play like that. I do, of course, but I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
there's a couple things.
I think that I definitely agree. I have it going from S to C only because that I think there's a way that you can use. I don't know if I had a specific criteria. I feel like most of it was just vibes, but there is a part of it where it is. I do weigh the like combat and mechanic side of it, like how cool it is it to run as a DM, and like you were saying, how cool is it to fight as a player and stuff. So I think that's a good criteria. I hadn't really thought of it, but yeah, I do have giant spiders as my favorite for beasts and stuff because generally I also like to run like a like horror perspective on monsters and stuff like that. Like these things are like you want to sell like the not like the inhumanity, but like the fact that this isn't this is a beast that you're fighting and everything. So I think giant spiders have that thing of like you were saying, Jay, of like offering a more interesting fight, especially if you have I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, but especially if you're fighting like a nest of giant spiders or something like that inside of like the den and stuff. So you could have a whole thing where you're like environmental
Terrifying.
problems of like fighting in webs or something. And you also
Mm,
could do a cool thing. I feel like they definitely beasts definitely I think cap at C tier at the most because like from a mechanic standpoint, you're not going to threaten higher level players. But I think you can still do something interesting with especially like giant spiders. You see like kind of like arachnophobia when you like or like when you find like a body of a person wrapped in a web and stuff. That
Yeah.
has like that sells the horror aspect, and then you just hear like these like wriggling sounds of crawling in the distance and
Mhm.
stuff. So giant spiders are definitely up there, but yeah, they kind of mostly offer to me, I think, interesting because usually the beasts of the area are going to like inform the nature around it and stuff. So I do think that they have some role play potential like throughout the game because seeing like what kind of beasts are in the area, like if T Rexes are common, like you were saying, if a T Rex is common, then you know you're dealing with like a very volatile sort of
Like a
environment and
jungle
stuff.
or something.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, they're important like to the ecosystem of the game. Like if you didn't have beasts, but also that's why I still will reiterate that they should have a beast and an insectoid
Mm-hmm.
category. I think that would just help with like a lot of the problems with the beast category because it's like yeah well it's like spiders are kind of carrying the beast category. I
Yeah.
think
No,
spiders
really.
and
Yeah.
apes like those are like probably the upper echelon, and I forget that dinosaurs fall into that category, but it's like I feel like you have to run a specific campaign if you're gonna argue
Have
that, like,
dinosaurs.
yeah, if you're gonna have,
Yeah.
because you're not just gonna be like, if you're in like medieval fantasy Europe, you're not gonna be wandering through the plains of like a grassy knoll and suddenly a T-Rex comes like,
But why
Pterodactyl.
not?
I guess, but why not? You might as well, right? You're
I
playing
think
advanced.
that, like you were kind of saying about the ecosystem, I think beasts do serve a purpose in the game. So I would like a high D tier because
Yeah.
they they are just they're random encounters, right?
Mhm.
Like they inform where you are, right? If you encounter some kind of beast, it informs the location and sets a tone. But that's all. They don't have like narrative potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
They complement other creature types too.
Yep.
Usually, like
Yes.
a knight on a horse. Like you can't have a knight without a horse. You can't have a
Right.
goblin without their wolves or their
Hmm.
spiders.
Mm.
So like they usually complement stuff, but just on their own, it's hard to unless you homebrew some crazy deadly thing. It's hard to just out of the book straight out. Not many of them are very relevant after like
Right.
level 5, I would say.
Right.
It also is just like a lot of them kind of just have like your basic attack that just does damage. There's nothing really going
Yeah.
on. There's no
Yep.
trait. At most, you might get a trait where like it has advantage on perception check to smell, but then nobody's hiding or anything during
Right.
while
It's like
in death
useless.
combat. So like but um going into the next one, what do you guys think about giants?
Hmm. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first, Jay?
I'll go. I'll go. So we we tossed and turned with giants quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, because giants have a fair amount of variety and versatility, right? Like there's the fire giants and frost giants and trolls and ogres. Um, they can be relevant in all tiers of play, right? Like for the most part, you could fight a troll in level 1 or whatever. It'd be
Yeah.
hard, or an
Yeah.
ogre, right? It would be hard, but it's possible. Um, but when we get into role play and narrative potential, not the lore, they have lots of lore. I love
Hmm.
giant lore,
Me
and
too.
that's why I struggled with it so hard, because I want them to be good. But the thing about the opinion that I have about it is, as far as narrative potential goes, I because they're so strong, like all the cool lore stuff are very strong fucking monsters, right? So you would have to do at least late, middle tier, or you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
5, 6, 7, 8 is when you're starting to introduce it, right? And then to later tiers. And if you do introduce giants, you have to basically make a whole campaign about giants,
Yeah.
right? It can't just be like, oh, maybe there's a giant problem that you have to solve, but most of the time it's like, no, this is what we're doing, right? We're doing giants the whole game.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why, to me, I rank them in C tier, which is above my D tier. So and I struggled with this because I wanted to put them in B, but
Hmm.
I think because of their relevance in earlier tiers of play, like if I wanted to run a giant adventure, I couldn't start with giants in the first level,
Yeah, they would literally like it would just turn into Attack on Titan, where if you get hit, that's it for you. Like you're done.
Also, if you do base your whole campaign around giants, eventually you're gonna have fought. How many frost giants do you fight before you understand that what their deal is, right?
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they do have a variety, but like not that much variety. So yeah, that's me.
That's a fair ranking for them. I would say A, and here's why I would say A. But let me preface this by saying if you're running them straight out of the 2014 Monster Manual, probably some of the most disappointing,
Oh yeah,
heartbreaking creatures ever,
no, yeah,
because it's like, okay, Hill Giant, he has a club and a rock. Oh my goodness. Congratulations,
yep.
Wizards. That's just like primo creature design. Like you couldn't have gotten any more creative than that. Giants are like some of my favorite creatures to add homebrew abilities on top of. So like I would say the most boring giant would be a hill giant. out of the monster manual.
Hmm.
It's an ogre with more stats and it's bigger. That's the only thing that it does differently from an ogre. It's just a higher size category and it has more stats. However, what a giant should be, you're a little person this big and he is like way up here. There should be damage thresholds. Can a cat feasibly kill a full grown adult man in real life? I would say no, unless they trip you walking down some stairs and you break your neck and gravity kills you. It should be the same way if a small adventurer is trying to just fight a hill giant one on one. Dude, he could pick you up and literally like throw you 8 football fields away, and like you're
Hmm.
just gone, and then you just break every bone in your body when you land. So, my favorite giant are cloud giants. I love cloud giant lore. I love how they're these like gaudy, noble, like I gave my cloud giants a homebrew ability that lets them take a handful of gems and coins out of a bag, imbue them with like wind energy, and just throw a grape shot blast of gold coins at you. And
Oh,
like
that's
you
dope.
just get
Yeah.
just shotgun blasted with gold coins. Like you could really go all out. Like Cloud Giants could have been so much cooler. Like they could have had magic items. Their whole thing is like they are so rich that like your mind can't even grasp how like they're these like oligarchs basically. Um, so I put them in A tier. Like Jay said, they have so much really rich lore, but they're just implemented poorly. But I think if you just tweak those stat blocks a little bit and you give them like a stomp attack, so when they stomp on you, it smashes you prone. When they swing their club, it sends you flying like 15 feet away, knocks you prone. Like
Hmm.
the size advantage is not represented properly, but if you can represent that size advantage over you, I think giants are some of the scariest enemies uh, in the game potentially, other than like dragons, of course. But like you go from fighting a horde of goblins at level 1, and now at level 5, it's like we got to take down 5 hill giants at the same time, and they're
Hmm.
throwing boulders at us. They're cleaving through us with their club, hitting 4 of us with the same attack roll. That's how they should be. But I put them in A because I have a really soft spot for giants. They put me on the map for YouTube. That was my first rework, was a hill giant. So I really love giants. I think they're awesome. So that's me.
That's
No, I
pretty.
mean,
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
yeah, I mean that kind of captures the reasons why I think giants are cool. I will say that I do want to give a disclaimer that like at least from like my perspective, I got into D&D from like homebrew systems and everything. So I'm just now getting into like Forgotten Realms lore, like the main lore for like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. So most of my appeal for giants comes from things like Norse mythology or like the various different giants that are represented like throughout like different mythologies and stuff. Norse is the main one, but yeah, also Attack on Titan as well, because that is legitimately one of my favorite. That's a whole side thing.
That's what
But
it
I
should
think,
feel like when
yeah, no,
fighting them.
there is a specific scene when I think about giants. To explain, I have them in. Let me make sure I'm not tripping. I have them in the right, like second to top of B tier. Mainly just because, like you guys were saying, the lore for them is like so insane that like I'm homebrewing it immediately. So like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the I don't really like the 2014 monster manual. That's a whole different discussion of like the disappointment that specifically giants have. But they're a creature that I'm going to homebrew just because of how much of a big deal they are. And like in any other setting other than like 2014 like fifth edition and stuff, when a giant shows up, like you were saying, like this is a creature that's like more than like 10 times your size and stuff. So like I was saying with Attack on Titan, the thing that like I think encapsulates how terrifying giants are is that this is spoilers for the show, but there's one specific section where I won't say who. There is a Titan that first of all it can run. So I think when you usually like giants are like I think they get the inspiration for giants in at least the monster manual books from what I've seen from like those like ancient Greek tales of like where this giant is just like a cyclops or something where it's just this big lumbering thing that like move super slow. I'm like, no, these
Yeah,
things are like pure muscle, so they would be able to like hulk you down and stuff.
that's
So
another thing.
yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
giant, it was a like a female Titan, and she could quite literally hulk you down on a horse. And there's one section where she has like somebody grabbed by like their like ODM wire gear and stuff, and is just spinning them around like a yo-yo. And it's just that's like what I think is like the intimidating part about a giant and stuff, and like especially in Norse mythology, these are like warriors that went toe to toe with gods and stuff. So that's why I kind of have them in B tier. Is that like, uh, I think if you homebrew it, to like even in like regular Forgotten Realms lore, I'm pretty sure giants are also still a big deal cosmologically and stuff. So um, the mechanic side of it, as far as base book, is pretty disappointing. But I do have them in B tier mainly just because they just have that, in TikTok terms, they have that aura.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you were saying in the core lore, giants were the only thing that dragons were like actually scared of.
Hmm.
There was this huge war for long time before people were even a thing, where giants and dragons fought each other forever. And like Anthony was saying, there is a precedent for them kind of being like humanoids.
Hmm.
So you can give them magic items and different kinds of armor. Like you can give them almost like human like abilities and equipment, because they are people. You can outfit them like how you would outfit a humanoid,
Hmm.
right? They're just giant.
Fire
Yeah.
giants, especially because
Yeah,
fire
yeah,
giants are all about like they actually taught the dwarves everything they know
that's right.
about blacksmithing. So
Hmm.
like a fire giant in full plate that's probably like 3 feet thick, dude. When you swing your greatsword at that, you're not hitting that. Like you have to hit him in a weak spot. Like that's how I would rule it, anyways. It's like give them a damage threshold where it's like if you deal less than 25 damage per hit, you deal no damage instead.
Yeah.
Like that's how it should be. Like that's another good point too. It's like they really are just superior to like a regular humanoid because they have everything that a person can do. Some of their personalities are more like uh specific. Like every giant has a different type of personality. Some of them are smarter, some of them are dumber, but essentially they are like gods if you compare them to a regular
Yeah.
person. They can build cities just like people can. They can forge weapons just like people can. It's like there's nothing saying that they can't just overrun the world and become the rulers of the world. So that's
And
another good point.
no, I definitely agree. It's also like, especially with the fact of like I was saying, a lot of people like when they think of giants, mainly the hill giant is obviously because it's the most popular one. It's just like this big lumbering like oaf that can't like think or anything like that. I'm like, no, like a giant with human level intelligence would quite literally be a nightmare. But my favorite giant specifically, I just discovered it about like a week and a half ago. I'm currently making a video on it because I kind of homebrewed the stat block a little bit. But there's a creature called an Oni in the monster manual, and the fifth edition one specifically took it away from more of the Japanese inspiration. Like it still has like the horns and stuff like that, but I'll probably add the like picture and post and everything. But the picture for the Oni, literally in the lore for it, is almost like ancient like European vibes and everything. Like it is literally like a nightmare fuel like folklore sort
Terrifying,
of
yeah.
monster. It has a smile that's like the size of like half its face, and it doesn't properly portray it. But they're like these. I think they're related to ogres. They're like
Yeah.
distantly related to ogres. But the 2014 version specifically, I don't know if it's for the like any other edition, but because they were like ogre mages before, like I think the 2014 one that made them like these like almost kind of hag-esque type like trickster like killers. Like they like infiltrate towns. They're like changelings, but like if it was a giant. Like so
Hmm.
they use their magic to basically like polymorph and change their like shape to infiltrate towns. And they, trigger warning for anybody like that doesn't like horror type of stuff, you can skip past the description, but they particularly eat human babies. That's their like the whole shtick is they infiltrate a town and then like integrate into it and then sneak into people's houses to eat babies and shit.
They're boogeymen essentially,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
and I won't like go too much into it because I don't want to like take up like a whole 15 minutes. But yeah, I homebrewed it to like basically emphasize that a little bit more and make that like basically dial up the horror of the creature and stuff because it is honestly like super cool, and that's part of the reason why I have it in B tier is the variety of giants. But um I won't let it get away from myself. Next up, you Jay, you were mentioning something about this, so I really do want to hear your thoughts about this. You were mentioning it before we started the video. Next up is plants. I want to hear your your thoughts about that.
Oh, okay. I'll go first then. All right. So let's talk about. So I used the 2025 monster manual, or the
Mhm.
2024 or whatever you want to call it, Monster Manual, so the new one. Um, and these are the plants that I pulled from that book. There's 4 of them.
Hmm.
The blights, myconoids, treants, and shambling mountain. There might have been a couple more, but these are the main ones that are like, you know what they are.
Mhm.
Plants are my least favorite. I like oozes more than I like plants. I can very rarely think of ways to meaningfully implement plants other than like a glorified random encounter.
Mhm.
Um, they are bottom D tier for me. Um, my friend Eric made a really hard case for myconoids because myconoids are kind of interesting and they kind of got lumped with the shittiest type.
Mhm.
Because myconoids are cool. They have really cool lore. They're detailed. It would be in you can make interesting encounters with myconoids. All other plant types are just random encounters, in my opinion. Maybe treants, you could make some sort of specific niche quest for you got to help out the treants or they're but it's just so niche and a one-time thing. You
Mhm.
cannot base an entire campaign around plants. So that is my opinion on plants.
Do you want me to go next, or do you want to go next,
Oh no,
Jonathan?
yeah, you can go next. Yeah, yeah.
So I would put, yeah, I do agree with you. Plants are, if you had to look at them from a design standpoint, they are feast or famine in terms of how cool and usable they are. They're either really cool and it's like, oh my God, yeah, dude, I could make a whole quest around this. Like, this is a cool creature, or it's like an awakened shrub or a shrieker. And it's like, well, if you had to put a gun to the back of my head and say make a campaign about a shrieker, I would say, oh man, you're gonna have to shoot me because um I love treants and I do think myconids are cool. What is that? Shambling mounds are cool, but I do agree with you. Like, really, the only two types of plant creatures that I could see you making a campaign around would be like a treant or like a myconid. Blights, I guess, too, but blights are a what is it? A creation of something else. So like
Mhm.
blights end
Minion
up, yeah,
type.
they're a minion. So they come from something else. So it'll just end up leading you to fight like a vampire or something. Um, but yeah, I'll have to put plants probably in C tier too, just because there are some really cool ones that I think are like I love treants and they're awesome. They're like good giants essentially. They can do
Mhm.
all the things that giants can do. They pose the same type of threats that giants do in terms of like, okay, bro, go ahead, barbarian, 1v1 the treant when he punts you across 3 football fields and then you explode when you hit the ground. Or they could pick rocks up and throw them. They do all the cool things that giants can do, but it's just unfortunate that, there's things like the shrieker or the awakened shrub or the awakened tree. And it's like, those are like, you walk through a spooky forest and the trees are alive and they attack you. But, when you're off into a grassy knoll somewhere, you're not really going to be able to implement plants into the campaign as much. So I think they are unfortunately kind of gated by that. So I would have to say C tier as well.
No, it's definitely understandable. I think that like out of all the creature types that I'm most disappointed by, it's in the running between giants and plants for me for the 2014 one specifically because that's like I started getting into D&D when it was like when 5e was like in its like peak sort of thing. Like I think I've been like into this for maybe about like 3 years, but the actual mechanical side of it, I think plants are 100% of the thing where if you're like trying to do something with it, you have to homebrew it because I think that's the even more so than beasts because at least beasts have the sort of like mechanical thing that it's cool to do a Jurassic Park thing to have the T-Rex. Like, yeah, like obviously it doesn't have like a whole bunch of like unique things. It just bites, but it's a T-Rex, so it's cool. It's hard to like, you know, if you just took it straight out of the base book, you're just like, I'm trying to think of a specific creature. Like, I think that maybe like the yellow musk creeper is pretty cool. I like how it can turn you into like a plant zombie sort of thing. Um, I have plant specifically in B tier only for one specific reason. Um, the like I was saying, well, first I'll just finish my thought on it. But the yellow musk creeper, I think definitely I think if you scale that up to a boss monster, like I don't think there's any plant you can take just straight out and make it like a full boss fight with all the cinematics of like other types. But if you like scaled up a yellow musk creeper, that would actually be like a wild ass thing to like, oh, like this forest lately is having is there like there have been like figures seen like shambling in the night and stuff. And when people walk up to them, there's like plants growing out of like the body or something. So I do think that's a cool idea. Like it also emits this like these like fumes that are like I don't know what it is specifically, but it emits like these spores that like kind of charm you and make you want to walk towards it, and then it I think like strangles you, and then when and it pilots your dead corpse. I think that's pretty cool.
That is
Um,
cool.
but the reason why I plant specifically in B tier is I think that they make up for the mechanical side of needing to homebrew it for the fact that I think plants from like a cosmological standpoint have like so much symbolism in a story and stuff. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like, yeah, obviously you want to have like boss fights in mind when you're thinking about a monster type, but also not every single monster is inherently going to be hostile and stuff. Like trees have like huge symbolism and like they like pop up in I think pretty much every single mythology like ever, or like especially in most stories too. There's always like this something's going bad when there's some sort of like divine tree, and like like the DM gives you this like 15-minute explanation for why this tree is like the most essential thing to the planet, and then you see like the leaves like kind of dying on it and stuff. Yeah, like they usually are like an indicator of like what I was talking about with beasts, of like how the beasts of like the region are gonna like kind of tell the players about the ecology and stuff, especially the plants. Like if the plants are attacking you, then okay, so like I don't want to be here, and this is this is how you like. There's nothing more hostile than like potentially being in arrest or something like that, and then you see like vines like creeping towards you and stuff. Like okay, so it's not even safe to like sleep here. Um, yeah, go ahead. I
No, I was
thought.
going to say there is a good point that you just made there that maybe I won't change my rating, but I did kind of just come up with a quick idea for like a whole campaign being based around plants. There's a
Mhm.
horror movie that M. Night Shyamalan, it might be M. Night Shyamalan, it might not be, that they directed, and this is also spoilers for the movie, but I can't remember the name of the movie, where people are just like being charmed into uh,
Deleting.
riding the sewer slide,
Yeah, yeah.
and like laying in front of lawnmowers that are moving, and it turns out like it's like a spore that like the plants are releasing into the air, and it's causing everybody to go nuts and like just do these things. And there is like a scary concept where like what if every plant on the planet turned against humanity and it became like against you? It's like, oh, for all the trees you've cut down, we're taking one of yours as recompense or something. Like that would be pretty sick. But like you really have to like come up with
Oh
something
yeah, no, you
cool.
would have to put
So
some like serious stock into it. Yeah.
yeah, so that was just like a quick thing, a side tangent for me.
So you were talking about the yellow musk creeper.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty intimately familiar with that because they created it for Tomb of Annihilation, the campaign, and I have run it before, start to finish.
Hmm.
And check it out on my YouTube channel. No, and the Yellow Musk Creeper was designed for that adventure, right? So
Hmm.
it takes place in a jungle. And one of the big themes of the jungle is that there's just fucking undead wandering about. Like if you go into the jungle, you might become an undead, and there's a bunch of different ways that that can happen.
Hmm.
But one of them is the yellow musk creeper. So I think that it definitely reinforces that theme, right? Like you can have the plants as a whole reinforce a sort of theme, which is the same thing that Anthony just said, right? Like my campaign, maybe the plants are the bad guy, right? But maybe somebody else is behind the plants being the bad guy, and that's an establishing thing. It's like your environment is against you.
Yeah.
The world outside D&D is based off of the idea that there are points of light, right? Where everything is darkness and shadow and horror and scary and terror. And there's just one little town that has a lighthouse. And that's the
Hmm.
only place that's safe. And to reinforce that, when you leave, there's shit trying to kill you constantly. And that's I think that's the purpose that plants sort of serve as, if you're in a spooky forest, this is where the plants come in, stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah, it's mainly just because I like the I'm not gonna. I think one of the best things as a DM is when you can recognize that your players themselves are actually scared, and I think that plants have probably the highest, like one of the highest ceilings out of all the types in terms of selling horror, because there's no easier way to sell horror than like going up against an enemy that's not, it's like this isn't an entity or like a person specifically. Like it's the sort of thing where like, yeah, you might have taken down this giant evil plant, but that means everything else, like you're fighting a force of nature, so that kind of like sells itself. But like you were saying, Jay, like you would have to have some sort of other sentient like villain and stuff to
Like
actually,
Gaia is
yeah.
against you. She's
Mm-hmm.
commanding the plants to come after you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right.
But next up is going to be, I'm just gonna just pick randomly, oozes. What do you guys think about oozes?
Back to back. Go ahead, Anthony.
I like oozes a lot, actually. I know they are very simple and it's hard to base a campaign around like an ooze, but Dweeblex does exist, and
Mm-hmm.
Dweeblex is like I think it's the demon lord of
Yeah.
plants, not the devil lord. So it'd be the demon lord of oozes, not plants. So there is a big villain that comes with oozes, and I think there are a lot of really cool oozes. So like my favorite ooze is just obviously the classic. You get every player with the gotcha moment, the gelatinous cube. Yeah. I mean, like it's the most iconic. You'll probably see that the most, but like some oozes are genuinely terrifying to fight, like black puddings, anything that corrodes your equipment. And then there are also I think it's either in Volo's guide or Mordenkainen's, there's these oozes that like they assimilate you and they make a clone of you.
Oh,
And
the
like the only thing that you could tell,
Ublex.
oh
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
those are really cool. And those are like really like you could do some weird intrigue campaign where it's like the mayor of the city, he's been acting very strange lately and he smells of sulfur for some reason. I nobody can clock why he's been acting like this. Adventurers, please help us. He's been demanding the sacrifice of flesh every week. And then like suddenly you realize like like as he walks you notice like his feet never leave the ground, and like he suddenly like he lifts off the ground and there's like this ooze like tendril going into the back of his head and it's like
Mm-hmm.
puppeteering him. You could do some genuinely terrifying things with oozes just because of the ooblexes and stuff. So I put oozes in A tier. Honestly, I like oozes a lot. I think they're really fun to
That's a
use.
hot take.
It is a hot take. It is a hot take. Not S, not S. They're
Mm-hmm.
not like I'm not going to put it on the same level as like a Beholder or something, but I like a good solid A tier with oozes. I think if you really dig down deep, you can actually come up with some pretty crazy stuff.
For sure, for sure. I think you are absolutely correct with the Oblex or the Ublex being it is designed to base a campaign around or like an adventure around, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that is the reason that it was created was somebody was like, "Oh, dude, I want to make a campaign or like a little adventure and this is the plot hook," right? Um so I totally feel you on that. And also nothing is better than the gelatinous cube, bro. Like
Mm-hmm.
you see at the end of this hallway is spotless, and
Yep.
you see at the end there's just a floating skull. Isn't that so weird? And they're like, "What is it?" It's acid. So yes, that's it.
Sick. It's so
Yes,
sick.
it is
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. It is pretty fucking cool. So I gotta give you that. Um, but
But you're actually wrong.
but how many? All right, so this is why I made criteria because I could pick favorites all day long. So I
Mm.
tried to be objective about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how relevant are they in all tiers of play? Mm. How many different? What's the variety, versatility? Mm.
Yeah.
Uh, the lore and flavor generally for ooze, like again this kind of goes back to if there's something, there's always an ooze is an indication of something else behind it, right? Like you're in a wizard secret lab and there's oozes that escaped or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I have them in my D tier So because I really just don't think that there's too much that you can do with oozes. Yeah, I mean, how many times you can only put the Oblex, the Ooblex, or the gelatinous cube once, maybe twice in a campaign.
Yeah, I agree with you. It would get really old if you were fighting nothing but oozes, because like describing that narratively in combat, like it's not as satisfying to cleave a great sword into a piece of jello versus
Right.
like into an orc's gut and bisect him or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
So it would get
And
old.
fighting back too. It's like it hits you with a pseudopod.
Right, right.
It's like, oh yeah,
It
that's real.
absorbs you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they are in D tier for me. Not to say that they're not useful and cool. I definitely would rank them above plants. But I can't see. I mean, to be honest, we could make a case for making a campaign out of any of these.
Mhm.
But for
Be a fun
oozes for
video.
me,
Trying to come up
yeah.
with a campaign for every creature type.
Yes, that would be cool.
We should maybe do that. That would be
Yes,
pretty
for
sick.
sure, for sure. But yeah, so that's my opinion on oozes. I just I don't think that they can stand up to some of the other monsters in some of the other tiers.
Totally valid, I think.
I'm just imagining like I think I think there definitely is a scenario where I just found out about I always forget his name, Jewelblex, because I was literally just
Jublex.
listening. Yeah,
Dweeblex, I think it's
I've been
pronounced.
Yes.
listening to lore videos about him for like the last like 2 days and stuff. So I just started getting into it, and that kind of shifted. That would make me maybe raise it up. So I have Oozes in C tier. He is really cool, but it's like Jay was saying that like that's like the one scenario I feel like you can make a campaign around oozes. I'm just imagining like if that's the most common creature type, like everybody, all the fighters are basically just like pissed off the entire campaign. Like
Yeah.
this is the 15th ooze that we fought today and everything. Like I've lost three
Bro, he
swords.
ate my plate
I
armor.
I,
Come on,
I have to
bro.
buy. I have to spend another 20 gold pieces for some more armor because that and the ooze attacked us during a rest. That would just it definitely would get old because I think that they probably I think even less. I think the only creature type that has less creatures in the books that I've been seeing because I just got the 2024 book like about like a week or two ago, I think. But I think oozes probably have the least amount of types. I know there's a lot of third party ones that are like made and stuff, but oozes just like like Jay was saying, like it's not that they're not cool. I have them in the bottom of C tier purely just because I do think they have potential, but it's like they're just very. I think they're the most niche type of like monster out of all the types and everything. So um I think I will say though that Dewey Blacks and then also in the 2024 Monster Manual, they came out with a blob called the Blob of Annihilation,
Yeah,
and it is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
definitely.
It is like this. I don't remember. I don't want to like butcher the lore for it, but it's like I think it's like the physical personification or not personification, but it's like this congealed mass of the decayed bodies of dead gods, if I'm not mistaken. So it's basically like if a black hole was a ooze, and I think that's probably like the best version of what a ooze could be is just this raw like I was saying talking about inhuman sort of stuff. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I do like the blob of annihilation. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it honestly, I had never even thought about like oozes were so irrelevant to me that like it was the Blob of Annihilation and then Jewy Blacks were the only like that was the only time I've ever been interested in an ooze in my entire time. And
So
like,
let me. I do want to say something about Jublex.
mm-hmm,
So Jublex is a demon prince, right? A demon lord,
mm-hmm,
and demon lords have domains, right? So Jublex, Dweeblex,
mm-hmm,
is like has his own oozes and stuff, but he also has demons. Like most of his army are demons. They're just ooze flavored.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like he has oozes, but most of his oozes are demons. Actually, like if you wanted to categorize them, he would have demons.
I think he has. I'm not super familiar with it because I do think he honestly is like a really interesting, especially the
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing he has going on with I forgot what the fungus the Queen of Fungus is,
yes, I do
but
know her name too.
that is I think like if there's any conflict you don't want to be caught in the middle of, it's the conflict between these two literally the most disgusting beings in the entire like multiverse and stuff.
Mhm.
Is then like I love the fact that oozes and fungi are beefing with each other and stuff.
Yeah,
And
Zagatmoy is her name.
yeah,
Yeah, they fight. So they used to have separate layers in the abyss, and they have fought with each other so much The Demogorgon has taken over most of their layers, and now they share one layer together.
Mm-hmm.
And they constantly fight each other. Like their lair would be the worst place to go.
Like I
In
can't.
the abyss.
It would just be endless Constitution saves not to barf the entire
Yeah,
time.
for
Like
sure, for sure.
you can't eat anything. You have to make wisdom saves to be able to like hold down your food.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they are pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Yeah, same thing for Zagatmoy. She would also have like mushroom flavored demons.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how the abyss works. It's like the whole all of demons and all of the abyss are made of this stuff called ichor, and demons just pop out of ichor. But
Mm.
depending on what layer of the abyss they're on, it kind of flavors what they look like and maybe like
Oh,
some of their abilities. What is represented in the monster manual for demons is like Demogorgon's demons, right? Like
yeah.
they're the base, like this is what demons are like generally, but every type of demon is different.
Yeah, I've just now started getting into like the Forgotten Realms lore, especially with like I can understand why and we're gonna get to your what I think your favorite type might be in a
Yeah,
second,
yeah, you know,
but
you know.
I can understand the reason why you enjoy or like like what's cool about like Avernus and everything about like fiends and stuff like that, just as a category, demons, devils, all that sort of stuff. There's just like there's like hundreds upon hundreds of like floors or like separate infinite dimensions with different types and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's hilarious and also like fitting that out of all the types, nobody in all of hell wants to go to that specific layer with the ooze and fungus.
Right in the abyss, yes. Oh yeah. Big fan. Big fan. We'll get to it.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying specifically, but I think I said everything I wanted to say about oozes and stuff. I don't know if
No
there's
problem.
any, unless anybody has any sort of strong emotional attachments to.
I'm
um,
good.
but moving on to the next type, uh, elementals. What do you guys think about elementals?
You want to take a stab at it, Anthony? I went twice.
Sure. I do like elementals a lot, actually. I think they're pretty cool. I like that anything that can bring the players to a different plane of existence potentially is usually a big favorite with me. So like elementals being like a problem in your campaign usually means like, oh, fire elementals keep invading. We're gonna have to go to the fire plane to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think some of my favorites just for like early game obviously are mephits because
Methods.
they're pretty awesome. And there's like so many different ones. There's like steam, mud, magma. Magma are disgusting because they have heat metal. It's like just an ability and players hate that shit. But I love it because it's like, no, man, you use it on me all the time. You make my fully plate armored, orc warlord drop his great axe all the time. Now it's time for the 8 mephits that just came out of the lava to make the dwarf turn into a ball of heated metal. um, I also like Ginny, I think.
Yes.
I don't know
Jen.
if Jin.
Mhm.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. I mean, they can grant wishes and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't get much more like powerful of an entity than something that can grant wishes. And there's a lot of different types. There's like one for each elemental plane, I'm pretty sure. So I think elementals have a pretty solid A tier for me. I'm gonna put them in just because they have a lot of variety of different. You could do anything with it. You could say there's like a they don't have any of these as far as I know, but if you wanted to do like a 20th level air elemental, dude, it's a
They do
tornado.
have it. They do have it.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's sick. And
Mhm.
Yeah,
in
there's
the new
one.
And
monster.
Yeah.
no, in the they have it in the Monsters of the Multiverse.
Oh, okay.
They
Yeah,
have these
like
big,
dude, you
huge
could do
things.
okay, yeah, that 20th level air elemental, it's a fucking tornado or
Yes.
something. Like you could do crazy shit like that. Now, I think their stat blocks are a little lacking in like the 2014 thing because air elementals, theoretically speaking, a tornado would be invisible if it was not sucking up debris and stuff. So I made air elementals invisible until they touch down and start absorbing things. You can hear them because of the loud gale that they produce. And like if you summon an air elemental, just think about how chaotic of a creature that is. It's like, there's orcs attacking the farm, Margaret. Quick, grab the air elemental gem and summon it. And then you summon it, and then like it summons in the living room and it just starts sucking all the stuff off the shelves and stuff. Like you need to actually describe stuff like that as a DM to really hammer home like this is chaos incarnate from the air elemental plane or whatever plane that you summon them
Absolutely.
from. They themselves just walking and existing cause destruction because
Chaos.
yeah, they're chaos. Exactly. I think they're really cool monsters, but that's my opinion.
That is a very good opinion. And I think
Thank you.
since you took out the D, you didn't use a D tier, I think we would rank them about the same because I put them in my B tier. And they're like a relatively high on my B tier. Because there is a lot of variety. There is a lot of like versatility for uses of them. And relevance and tiers of play, like you were saying, methods at first, and then you can keep going up till you're fighting genies. But and so the other thing that I think about them is you can make a pretty cool campaign that is based around the elements bleeding into the material plane or something like that, right? Like, like we were just saying, there are monsters that are nature incarnate, right? That's like, this is the wrath of the sea, right? This is a volcano incarnate, like manifested into a being, right?
Yeah.
So it's fucking badass. Yeah. Like there's definitely a lot of cool, like a player fighting these things is really sick. The reason that they're not an A tier for me is because they suffer from the same sort of issue that giants do, in my opinion, is that like how many fire elementals are you going to fight before you're like, all right, we know that they're fire guys. Like, let's get our fire resistant potion before we do this one. You know what I mean?
Take a
So
Dasani with them to battle.
right, it gets a little repetitious, but I think that there is really cool stories that you can play, and not only can they act on their own, right? Like you can have air or like elementals doing their own shit, or like genies or whatever doing their own shit, but you can also have them serve a higher purpose, like serve a higher being, like a wizard summons it, right? And now the wizard's the main bad guy, but you got to go through his elementals to get to him. And I think flavor wise, like there's a whole Avatar, The Last Airbender, like that's the four elements is like iconic, like it's classic fantasy. You got to have it. So I put them in a high B tier for me.
Hell yeah.
No, that's definitely valid. So I have them at the top of C tier for me. It's not that I don't like running them. Like I said, I don't have anything in D tier. I think there's definitely potential for all of them. I would guess if I could like describe the criteria, I guess I'm thinking about in the terms of like I know that one of you guys mentioned about like how many times can you use this before like it becomes like repetitive and stuff. I will say that I've been looking into like a little bit more like Forgotten Realms lore and stuff like that in regular 5e and stuff. So um there's one specifically in the new 2024 book that is I think it's called the Cataclysm or something like that, where it's basically just this raw like force of like all elements combined. Like it is basically just like it's not eldritch, but it's as close you get to like an eldritch vibe, where this thing is like a like extra planar entity that is like the chaos of all elements combined. And so I think that part is really cool. I think the one that I would probably say is my favorite is I like the like you were saying, Anthony, I like the genies a lot. I would probably say if I have to pick one specifically in terms of like running a campaign and like making a villain, probably the Afrits, the flame ones are pretty cool. I don't know if it's a Afriti or a Afrit.
Afridi, yeah, they're like slavers and shit.
Yeah, they basically are just all about. They're kind of like they give me the vibes based off of the picture and just the actual lore for them. They're kind of like the Sith. Like I don't know if that's a good description. They give me like an impression of like a Sith Lord or something like that. But like in D&D, like it's an elemental like fire thing. So I think there's specific ones that are really really cool. But I don't know how many times I could like include elementals before I have to make the entire campaign about them. And I think they work better. I think they're one of those creatures that work better if they don't show up as commonly. Like I do think high fantasy is cool, but it's not like my exact forte. So they fit. The more common they are, is the more like the campaign turns into more of a high fantasy thing. And that's just usually not the vibe that I like to go for. So if I have an elemental show up, it'll be like the ones in the Monsters of the Multiverse book that you mentioned, Jay, where there's one that's a Tempest that's basically just this, it's based off of Quetzalcoatl from Mesoamerican mythology and stuff, but it's like this wind serpent that can fire like the thing can like fire a mile long wind beam and stuff like that, and like create like storms in like like half a mile radius or something. It's crazy. But yeah, I think elementals have their most impact when they show up not that commonly. So that's the reason why I have them at the top of C tier, but I like them a lot.
Sure.
Um, did you guys have any other things you wanted to say about elementals?
I do actually. I wanted to also point out, I think with Jay's criteria and stuff is like how, like, where can you like run into them at? I think elementals, like, you could literally run into elementals everywhere.
Everywhere.
You're
Yeah.
Mhm.
doing a sea campaign. There's a rogue wave that is a water elemental, and your 20th level players now have to think, how are we going to defeat something that's that big and it's coming to destroy the ship with the king on it or something? Um, and like, I think if as long as the dungeon master understands how to describe like so Sock, you were saying like high fantasy elementals, like they come in everywhere. I think they shouldn't be everywhere necessarily because of how destructive their forms are in the
Yeah.
material plane. Like I really think you should, like, as a DM, let's say like the farmer example I used as a joke earlier, but let's say like there's a band of raiders attacking a village. um one of the villagers was gifted a gem of air elemental summoning or something from his archmage grandfather that died, and he said, if you ever need to protect yourself, summon it and run. Just don't summon it somewhere where it could destroy things. And it's like he has to make a choice: do I summon this air elemental to defeat this bandits while simultaneously probably destroying the village in the process, because
Hmm.
it's literally going to destroy everything. I think like they need to have like that representation of like these things are chaos incarnate. So like
Yes.
even if you summon it, you better hope you can control it, because once it starts rampaging, like a single fire elemental could burn an entire city down potentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like I think they're really cool in that aspect. But
Yes,
that's just
absolutely.
about where I was going with it. I just like to emphasize the flavor of elementals is awesome.
I completely agree. I think that bleeds into something else that I wanted to mention about them. But a big thing in the lore for genies is summoning and binding them, right? Because you can't just get a noble genie to grant you a wish. You
Hmm.
know, you gotta force that dude, and it is not an easy process. Many a mage die in Kalimshan trying to summon, because a genie isn't just an elemental that's just pure chaos, but
Mm-hmm.
they can be, right? They can be if they want to. So they can ruin everyone's day, like for not just your day, but your whole generation,
Hmm.
their whole day.
A
And
chaotic being with sapience, basically,
yes, and
which is
they're
what makes it
just as
scary.
temperamental as the elements that they are part of.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that like genies, I didn't like stress it enough. Genies are literally one of my favorite things to add in, because it's not like I don't have a whole campaign based around it, but like having genies be a flavor and be around, and like there might be one following you, or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Part of your backstory or some shit, right? But it is this sort of interesting piece of lore that you can implement. And yeah, that was it. Just genies are fucking awesome. I didn't like stress enough how dope they are, and that definitely made them higher on my list
Oh
for
yeah.
that.
I'm just
Oh yeah.
imagining the scenario where like a bard freestyles so hard that like a fire elemental shows up and burns down the city.
Yeah, and like
Uh,
imagine as the players, you don't know that's what happened, but you come there as the after you see the aftermath of something like that happening, and then it's a mystery campaign. Like a band of raiders attack the village, yet the whole village is completely and utterly destroyed. Normally they don't do that. Like bandits are just gonna rob you and like take your coin. Like they
Right,
wouldn't.
right.
I don't know what happened here. And then it becomes like a cool mystery. It's like, oh well, young James summoned an air elemental and it destroyed everything.
That was one more thing that I just want to add one more thing. You can, like he said earlier, you can put an elemental anywhere. You can find an elemental deep underground in a dungeon just
Mhm.
as easily as you can in the city,
Yeah.
right? So I think that there are uses for them everywhere, and then that's why they rank so high for me.
All right. And getting into it next, this is one of my favorite types, but I'll hold what I have to say. Humanoids. How do you guys feel about humanoids as a I guess not these aren't really a monster specifically, but you have like different like inhuman like quote unquote types, but like they're like generally humanoids. How do you guys feel?
I have like a good thing that like I want to talk about humanoids if you guys don't mind.
Go
Um,
ahead, yeah.
By all means.
Humanoids are like you were saying, Sock, one of my favorites. Um, because a humanoid is everything, right? Like there are a lot of movies that don't have fantasy in them and have just as scary of bad guys
Hmm.
that are just people. People are fucking scary
Yeah.
and they can be just as powerful as the player characters. At any tier of play, I mean, using stat blocks is, I didn't treat them as much like, oh, basing this off of stat blocks because humanoids are just the people around. So
Yeah.
most of the time you are just going to have to make them whatever, like the assassin stat block or whatever, but you got to add, well, this guy, he's not just an assassin, he's an assassin that has a cloak that makes him invisible, right? Like every in my games, the best villains, the scariest villains are just people.
Hmm.
Um there's you can have you can have the sneaky assassin, but you could also have the archmage, right? Or you can have the king, the corrupt king,
Hmm.
right? You can have, and I love putting my players in situations, they call it the J screw, but I like putting them in situations where they just can't win. Like they're in a situation where like the king is gonna arrest them, right? And if they kill all the guards, now they're really going to jail, right? But they're innocent, right? So what do we do? So they have to bow down, and they hate it. All players never want to surrender. And I think humanoids are the only monster that aren't a monster. And that's why you can get away with shit like that.
Hmm.
Because otherwise they're monsters. And they're like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna fight you. You're a monster, right? But these aren't these are people just like you know. And I'm a huge fan of humanoids. However, I do like others more than that. So they are the top of the A tier to me, teetering on S tier for me. The reason that they're not S tier is because like I did try to go off of just stat blocks and they just, I would have to homebrew some shit for
Hmm.
a humanoid. But as far as like roles in a campaign, you can base a lot of campaigns are based off of just a guy is the bad guy. So that's my thoughts. I love humanoids, one of my favorites for sure.
You want me to go next or you want to go sock?
Oh no, you can go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I agree with you 100%, Jay, about humanoids. There is no other creature type in the game for Dungeons and Dragons that can elicit a more like horror response or get your players to what's the word I'm trying to think of, like meet them on the same level. Like you're never gonna have your players understand and feel for like an elemental versus like a human because
Hmm.
you're a human in real life. So you have a subconscious attachment to a humanoid or humans basically. So I think they're not my favorite creature because I'm just a regular human in real life. So I never want to play just a human whenever I play fantasy games. I'd rather play like an elf or something, but they fall under the humanoid category. So I will put them in S tier in terms of like they encompass everything. You cannot have a campaign without humanoids, I don't think. Otherwise it would be interesting to see if you could, like, oh, we're all just playing elementals, like every single one of us is an elemental and we're playing this campaign on the plane of fire. That would be pretty crazy if you could pull that off. I don't know how you could, but I think humanoids, like, they are everything. They are the baseline creature to every campaign in existence, bar none. There is nothing that and like you can't I'm trying to think of like how to word this because Professor Dungeon Master had a good example for like grim dark settings. Would it be scarier to fight a bunch of bugbears in a cave or a bunch of crazy people that have turned into cannibals in a cave? Like if you can always make humans scarier than like the actual monsters because it's like, oh my god, that could have been me. Like I
Mhm.
could have
Yes.
turned into that at some point. And it's like you just turn around, it's like a dude's got a bone club and he's just wearing like leather skin as like his toga or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I have to put humanoids in S tier just because of that. Even if they're not my favorite, they're just too important for a campaign. They are the if you were building a house, they are the floorboards of the house, the
Yeah, exactly.
foundation.
I mean, you guys kind of touched on a lot of the points of like why humanoids are they're one of the three types that of monsters that I have in S tier. Purely, I guess another reason for my criteria would just be, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I can really quantify it because I just advised earlier, but it's fine. Yeah, I have humanoids in S tier primarily because like when you're trying to like make a like they don't have to necessarily be like you guys were saying they're going to pop up throughout the entirety of the campaign, but I think the type of villain that the players are going to hate the most is like it's a different sort of thing when a for example like a troll is evil or like some sort of like random monster like or even a hag or like like any other sort of like thing that's not human. Yeah, you can make them like, oh, this creature is like so like inhumane, it's like so scary, but the scariest type of evil is evil that is chosen. So humanoids specifically, like you and me, like obviously I'm not going to just go decide to become a lich, but the fact that like this is a person that is choosing this path of like darkness and stuff like that, you can get into some of the most demented things. It's why like the theme of like movies throughout like the entirety of history has been like it's the humans that are the monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's
True.
not like
True.
it's a tired like repeated trope for a very specific reason. It's just that's just the peak of like that's the definition of evil is like what a human can do and stuff like so. Yeah, no, immediate S tier sort of thing. I feel like I kind of interrupted somebody. I think somebody's going to say something about
I was just gonna mention like the fact that people like Ed Gein exist in our world is probably scarier than any shark, any bear,
a
any
dragon or like
a
yeah.
dragon because they make that conscious they are making a conscious decision even if they're insane they're still making a conscious decision to turn people into furniture or something like scary people and it's almost like a how dare you stoop to that level
Yeah, like
when
it's
dragons are out here burning down entire villages and you're gonna be evil too just like them like what
Right.
fuck you man like
Yeah,
that's how it feels as like a player's perspective I feel like
absolutely. I also want to add that I did base a lot of mine off of villains, but like humanoids can also be great allies,
yeah.
right? Like all the best allies that you beat in the campaign, most of the time they're the archmage, right? Like just
Mm,
as much as the archmage is the bad guy, he's also the good guy.
yeah
So the shopkeeper, like all of these people are characters and people. And I think that a lot of the lore for monsters and stuff like that sort of tend to flavor them in a certain way to give the DM an idea on what they can do with this monster, but they're kind of tied to that,
yeah.
right? Humanoids are not tied to that. They can be as gray and confusing or as fucked up or as good as you want to make them.
yeah
And so they definitely serve a very good purpose for sure.
empathy was the word I was trying to come up with
And
earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
They will
Mhm.
not empathize with an elemental like they will empathize with a human or a humanoid. Mostly humans specifically. Like when you make a human your villain or your ally, uh, you can't get empathy from any other creature like you can with a humanoid. I
Yep.
feel
Yeah,
like.
it's undoubtedly like the most versatile, like I guess we were to say like quote unquote monster type that you can have in a campaign, just
Oh,
because
for
like
sure.
you're saying, like it doesn't have to be evil. And then like the people that the interactions that the players get attached to the most are usually their character's connection with humanoids and stuff.
That's how you
So,
get them when they're high level and you
oh
can't
yeah,
touch them. You go after the NPC
remember that
ally.
town that you guys like
Sure.
really enjoyed? Like, yeah, no,
Uh-huh.
it's being attacked by like it's
So that's something. So you just hit the nail on the head for something that I want to mention, and I kind of did it a second ago. You could be any level. They could be level 20
yeah,
and be almost gods, and you could put them in a situation where there are people around that they can't do anything, right? Like they can't. They're being forced to do something that they don't want to do, and humanoids are the only situation where that will work like that.
Yes.
I don't want to plug my own stuff. I'm only saying this to like actually like contribute to the discussion. But I think one of it really just came to my mind that I recently like ran an interaction for a campaign that I'm running right now where there were literal zombies, and it wasn't even like traditional zombies. Like they were like on like the brink of death and everything, and it was like this whole thing that was keeping them as like the zombies. So there's literally zombies around, but the players were more scared of the bandits that were trailing them. I think that's another thing is the intelligence of the villain is that's what can make it more threatening. Is just like as a person, are you going to jump like an entire group of adventurers? No, you're going to wait until they're asleep, or you're going to wait until the people that they care about are the most vulnerable and stuff. So the level of intelligence is literally like I think that's also what aids to the like making humans the most iconic villains usually in a campaign. It's just that they can scheme and plot just like the players can and stuff. So what made the players more scared of the bandits was that like first of all they were weaker. Like each one of them were weaker than the players individually, but they just were like, okay, so we're in squads of four. We're gonna have one dude like trail back and follow them and just watch while we engage with them in combat and then run away. And then yeah, so it was a whole thing, and I think that's what makes humans like such a good villain and stuff like that is that they have that level of intelligence that can, like Jay was saying, puts you in a near unwinnable situation and stuff. So I think that's the reason why I have them in S tier. But another type that I'm pretty sure that might be your favorite, Jay, is we're gonna go into Fiends next. I know you might want to have some things to say about it. So
Let's let
yeah.
Anthony go first before I talk for 15 minutes.
Okay, well, I will say immediately Fiends are an S tier for me.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the highest, if not the highest S tier, because dude, the nine hells and the abyss, like it doesn't get cooler than that in terms of like a villain like Asmodeus, all of the archfiends and the archdevils, the blood war, all of the lore surrounding that, and like every layer of the nine hells it's just absolutely terrifying, but it's also so cool. And it's like you want to go there, you want to see how terrible it is there, and it's like a morbid curiosity. My favorite fiend is, I think it's a Baylor. I have to go with the
Yeah,
Baylor because
they're tough.
I like Balrogs and Lord of the Rings, and Baylor I haven't gotten to run one. I've always wanted to run one, but they're awesome, and like they're so scary to other devils and stuff. Like they're actually, like, other devils are afraid of Baylors because they are just uncontrollable powerhouses of, they are like a force of will, like something that cannot be contained. They are that deadly. And like one of my favorite uh demons is Grozd. I love Grozd because I'm a Slanesh fanboy for Warhammer. So
Oh yeah.
Grozd most
Yes,
he
yes,
most falls under like that Slanesh type demon.
yes, yes.
So I love demons and devils. They're some of the coolest villains because you can do that you could do political intrigue, you could do body horror, you could do any sort of, they could really fall into any category, and they can also misconstrue themselves as people to you. They could become your ally, and it's like the goodly bard that has been helping you since the beginning of the campaign, and then suddenly, like, when he gives you bardic inspiration, it's actually a bane die that you have to subtract, and you're like, what's going on? Why am I cursed suddenly? And he's like, isn't that just great? You thought that I was your friend this entire time. And then he rips his skin off and the wings come out or something, and it's like, there's nothing that's going to get your players to go, oh my god, when something like that happens. So I love Fiends. I'll put them in S tier. I won't take up the whole talking space because I can go on forever too.
So I also can go on forever. Fiends are my number one S tier and my favorite monster type. I'm actually running an entire campaign that's based in the Nine Hells right now. I really love devils. I've implemented devils in every single campaign I have ever run, even if it's a cameo or like a brief little encounter. And that's the thing about devils is they're like humanoid plus, right? And that's just devils. That's one type of fiend. There's 3/4 types of fiends, right? One type of them is humanoids, but they're the evil one, right? But they can be like my favorite kind of villain archetype. And I mentioned this in my Discord server the other day, but like my favorite type of villain is a the Southern gentleman is what I call him. But he has like this Southern drawl, and he's like, "Oh, darling, don't you worry about a thing." And
Hmm.
he's so evil, just so fucking evil, but he's kind. Like he's a generous host. He'll have you over for dinner, get close to you, be your
We'll
friend.
have you for dinner, all right. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Hell
So
yeah.
and that's just devils, right? That is just devils. They have so much depth. You can run devils from any tier of play. Like they have little imps to, like I said, I have a campaign based around them. So you start with cultists, right? And then you move on to, like even cultists are humanoid type that have something bigger behind them, right? So you could start off with the humanoids and then move on to the devils or the demons, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But the Blood War is one of my biggest. I'm like a huge fan of the Blood War. I know everything there is to know about it. The other thing that I really like is like you were saying, devils have this rigid hierarchy, and that leads to political intrigue out the wazoo. Like you could do that all day long.
Mhm.
That's what they're made for. And then you can move on to demons, right? Which are the polar opposite, but still evil. And you can have a demon show up at any time, right? Like, oh, the king was possessed by a demon the whole time, right? And he's actually, oh, the demon is the bad guy, right? And you can have the demon be, the same thing. Oh, start with cultists, move on to demons, and then a demon lord, right? And every layer of the abyss has its own flavor, its own kind of demons. And then Yugoloths are the in between. They're like, oh well, like I was fighting on this side of the blood war, but now I'm like, they're offering me more gold. I'm gonna go fight on this side of the blood war and just turn tail in the middle of combat and go. So you can never trust them. I love it. I love fiends. They're my favorite.
I'm shocked you didn't also mention the how you like when you put your players in a situation where they can't win. If they are in hell, that should just be how it feels wherever they go. Like you
Yes.
can't just waltz into a city in the nine hells like I am a paladin of Paylor, and I am here to smite thee. Like he would get swarmed by like 18 pit fiends, bone
Yes.
devils would tear
Yes.
him in half and
Yes.
fly off with his guts like hanging out. Like, dude, that's probably one of the top place where if your players go there, they have no
No
agency
control.
whatsoever. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And like
Absolutely.
if you role play and describe that perfectly, I don't think there's anything else that could really bring that fear of like, oh, my 20th level character is like a kid on a tricycle here compared to everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that so the another cool thing is like within the same monster type, right? Fiends. We have demons and devils, which are totally different. And they constantly are fighting each other. And demons have they are swarm, right? Like they just throw themselves at the problem, right? They just attack and attack and attack, and that's all they know. An entire swarm of demons going up against one little army of devils, and the devils are standing their own, right? Like,
Yeah,
how fucking metal is that?
it's awesome.
It's so awesome.
The Hells is just it's just like a living heavy metal cover
Oh,
art
It's
yes,
essentially. It's
honestly,
like what's
yes,
happening.
it's pretty much the Warhammer 40K of the D&D world and everything. I
Pretty
probably say
much.
that, and then like the Underdark, probably the most volatile places I think you can be like in the multiverse.
And the
Um,
Underdark's on the material plane too,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
scary.
scary. Yeah.
I'm gonna get into the Underdark in a little bit, but
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
as far as yeah, no, like Fiends, the only reason why I don't have them in S tier, they're A tier for me. They're very solid A tier. The only reason is just because of a lack of experience. I've only been DMing for a little bit, so I haven't really had any scenarios where I've had like demons or devils show up and everything, especially just because of the fact that like all the campaigns that I've ran haven't been with any sort of like Forgotten Realms lore or like like the Great Wheel or something like that from like previous
I
editions
need
and
to
stuff.
run a D&D 5e campaign and have you as a player or something.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely super interested in it. I've been getting into it more, and I think Fiends probably have the most interesting lore for me. Like I like when I'm just listening to like lore videos at work and stuff, they definitely have the most interesting lore. Just with the amount, I think like on all categories, they would be an S tier for me. It's really just like I was saying, just because of lack of experience, and also with the fact that when a demon or a devil shows up, you can't just have that just be there. Like there's like a you have to they're fun to dedicate like a chunk like a chunk of the story or the entire story around and everything. But that's the only reason why I don't have it in S tier. But I'm pretty sure like as I like play more and DM more and stuff like that, they probably will move up. But I have
They
them in
can
A tier.
they can puppeteer the
Oh yeah,
entire
baby. You
campaign
can
from your
throw
back
them in
row.
Oh yeah,
anytime.
I and specifically the one that's got me the most interested in like running fiends at some point or using like stat blocks from the fiends is the Rakshasa has been quickly one of my most favorite like creatures because they pretty much accentuate exactly what you guys were talking about and stuff like that. How these they can be not only on like okay, oh Rakshasa facility, you can't have that in the beginning of the campaign unless it's like a like it has the hidden ally sort of thing, and that's like the or not hidden ally but hidden enemy sort of deal that I think that like devils are so good at and everything. And the Rakshasa also I also like the fact that it's like I feel like I'm not saying like I like cats and stuff, but I feel like if a cat was personified, Rakshasas are pretty damn close. Like they pretty much are like they think they're like they're hot shit and they're no pun intended for being
Right.
fiends and stuff. But I like how they have the puppeteer aspect. They're very versatile creatures in that this is definitely a boss monster, but it's intelligent and also persuasive, so it will most likely try to like do the thing of like getting the players to like do things for them. They could be like eliminating other evil competition and stuff like that. They're extremely versatile, but they also have a really cool thing with their stat blocks of like being immune to spells. It used to be in the 2014 one where it was like I think like spells of the seventh level,
Fifth level or
fifth
lower.
level or lower. I think that's really cool. But the 2024 one took it a step up. They're immune to spells in general, if I'm not mistaken. Now, if I just look at the
That's
stat
pretty
block,
sick,
and
actually.
that is insane. Like just imagining like the player like letting off like a wizard letting off one of their like eighth level spells and everything. And you just see like it just sputters out and doesn't work.
Because
That
isn't that funny?
I
Then he
don't
just
think
turns and looks at you.
Yeah.
like he just laughs like seeing like you fire like your highest level fireball at them or something like that. You just see he's just sitting there in his chair and everything like smoking a pipe with his reversed hand and
Yeah,
everything.
the hands too are cool.
The
It's like, oh,
Oh
hands is
yeah,
cool as
I go
well.
to shake the dwarf's hand. It's like you feel like his thumb is on the right side of his
Right.
hand. It's creepy. It's like they got a little bit of body horror in them too,
Mm.
oh
which
yeah,
is kind
no.
of cool.
They like I think Rakshasas are they probably like are like would be my top 10 favorite like creatures like in general, just because of the fact that they are like obscenely evil, but they have like such a level of intelligence that they're like they kind of represent what I like about fiends of like how they represent this like evil and like obviously you can't relate to a devil or a fiend, but you can see like there's like a little piece of that in everyone, like that like type of evil, like they're like personifications of base primal desires that everybody like every being has or every like sapient being has and stuff. So
Hmm.
Rakshasas kind of encapsulate like fiends or like a corrupting sort of force, like one just being around like the town starts like slowly like descending into like darkness and chaos and stuff. So I think that's why they're like my favorite type is just because I like the fact that they have this, oh, like I'm a luxury sort of sophisticated villain, but I'll also eat you like, for dinner and stuff.
Right.
Do you
But
have a favorite like arch devil or arch fiend?
um I'm trying to think. I don't know all the names off the top of my head. I'll probably say my favorite like devil if we're talking about do demon lords count if we're talking about
Yeah,
like the
I would
princes of
say.
hell.
Sure.
I know we mentioned earlier Dewey Blex kind of because I like Lovecrafty and Eldritch shit. So
Yeah,
Dewey Blex
he
and
really
then
fits that bill
Yeah,
perfectly.
definitely.
the Fungus Queen as well probably like tied from like my favorites and everything. I love the fact that like well Dewey Black specifically, I like how he is the type of evil that you can't like begin to understand. Like even the other fiends are disgusted and don't want anything to do with them. Like he is so disturbing that the like I think it's in the lore that if there's anywhere in the hells where you want to go to make sure nobody else is going to follow you, nobody's following you to Dewey Bless's
Yeah,
and I
Right.
forgot I keep forgetting mispronouncing her name.
The
Zagutmoy is the
Zakutmoy, yeah, yeah.
Zagutmoy.
Zugmoy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's cool too.
if you go to that realm, nobody's following you, and I think that just that in itself is like bad, like not, it's badass in a very like evil, disgusting way, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. But yeah, no, like fiends are like strong A tier for me.
For sure. I wanted to add one more thing.
Mhm.
And that's there's a demon lord for that, right? Like if you want to do undead, there's a demon lord for that. His name's Orcus, right? If you want to do like anything, the fungus, there's a demon lord for that.
Yep.
Like there's everything. There's a demon lord for it. And that's only one part of the Fiends as a whole.
I think Brennan Lee Mulligan doing the Asmodeus reveal on the Paladin was probably
Yes.
one of the best depictions of how you do Asmodeus. It's like,
fuck yeah.
he tears the skin off your face and he twists your head backwards. It's like, yeah, that's what he does to your 20th level character.
Yep.
Sorry, buddy. Like, you cannot kill Satan in D&D. There's no
Right.
way. You have to get the other gods to help you fight them. That's how I feel. I like when there are things in the world that are stronger than you no matter what. Like, there's always something more ancient and evil than you can possibly wrap your head around as an adventurer. I think it's kind of silly when it's like, yeah, when I hear stories where like, yeah, my paladin got to like 20th level. We fought Asmodeus and killed him. I'm like, not in my game, you're not.
No, me neither. I feel exactly the same as you.
Haylor is going to help you kill him. You're not killing him like
Right.
with your own hand. Like, there's no way.
And the thing about devils, especially like an Asmodeus kind of thing, is that you don't beat him, you try to outsmart him.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? You try to get around some kind of contract or whatever, because that's his weakness. All devils, that's their weakness, is they are beholden to the rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you have to work with the rules in order you have to beat them at their own system.
Right. Yeah. And it's scary because if you're good at role playing that, it's hard to find a loophole.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I think
also,
that sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it also has you seeking out really powerful, badass celestial allies too, or whatever powerful allies. And it just brings your campaign into such an epic conclusion. And also, there's no better reveal than like somebody you thought was your friend turns out to be some sort of fiend. But sorry, go ahead. I know I've said that like multiple times. It's just
nothing better.
Nothing gets your players to get that face.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that of like the different ways. I think part of the versatility of devils as well is that the reveal of them and the different ways that you can reveal them. Because yeah, you can do the hidden ally thing, but there's also the part of like, you know, like we were saying before, like the cultists and stuff like that lead into it. If you there's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's like what I was talking about before of like the chosen evil. Obviously, devils are going to be evil because they're devils, but it's like I think they're probably the most intelligent representation of it because they literally are manifestations of evil. And that, like you were saying, like on a cosmic level, that's also why I like the Rakshasa as well, is that like uh they almost have I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can go to hell after you kill them to find them, but they're like formless things. I think they're one of the few fiends I've seen that where I'm pretty sure it just becomes a permanent enemy if you kill it. Because like
you actually, I don't think you can kill any devil or demon on the material plane. Like, no matter how many times you kill them, they just reform in the hells and stuff.
Yeah, they reform in the hells. I know Rakshasas do as well, but I'm pretty sure I remember reading something where it was like, that's pretty much near impossible compared to like most other devils in it or like fiends and everything to kill it in the hells because it's this formless, like shapeless sort of like energy that they turn into for how
when he comes back. So that's the thing about devils is when you kill a devil on the material plane, he gets demoted. So he goes back to form 0, right? A Rakshasa doesn't.
Yeah,
he just goes back home.
Yeah.
Right. He just goes back home, takes a couple weeks, does a jog, and he's right back to fuck with you some more.
Oh, remember me, wizard. Just rips his head off or something.
Yeah. Yeah, if you kill a devil, it's going to take another 1,000 years before he catches up. But your great grandchildren, they're going to get it.
Yeah, it's a grudge for your entire family. You would have to like, you literally like Anthony was saying, you have to find some sort of like cosmic entity to eliminate this devil or like this fiend for you and everything, because there's no like way you as a human could like make this not a permanent like threat towards you and like your entire bloodline at that point and everything.
I feel like if you don't do it that way, you take away all of the weight behind the creature type itself. If you don't have it to where it's like, you can kill him, but he will continuously return and haunt you and your entire bloodline until he wipes you off the face of existence, unless you go and find the cleric prays to his god to send some sort of angel down to help him to deal with it.
But yeah, unless did you guys have anything else you wanted to say about fiends? They're kind of like the most versatile.
Do I want to keep talking about fiends? Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Going into the next type will be constructs.
Who wants to go first?
I mean, yeah, yeah.
I can tackle it. So constructs for me, I actually rank them surprisingly high. And I will tell you why. So going off of my criteria, right? Constructs, there is a precedent for a wide variety, right? We got the stone and the steel and the iron and the mechanical monsters and animated objects. Like you could do it anytime. There's also any tier of play, right? This rug of smothering at first level, right? Or the, you know, giant guardian of the wizard's tower or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, they aren't an A tier for me. I actually rank them B tier. So they aren't an A tier for me because even if you do fight them at higher tiers of play, there's always somebody behind them, right? Constructs don't just manifest, someone makes a construct. So there's always going to be someone stronger. In fact, in my art that I use to like represent on my tier list, I
Mhm.
used a picture where there's a little human wizard girl and she has a shield guardian standing behind her,
Right.
right? So that automatically makes it where they're one step removed from being like an actual threat, an actual bad guy. I don't think that I could make a campaign based around the villain being a construct. Um, but you can, just like elementals, you can find them deep in a dungeon just as easily as you can on the city streets. So I think that, and they're kind of fucking cool to fight. Like I want to fight a giant robot. That's
Mhm.
classic shit, right? Like giant robot fighting is a whole thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I rank them at B tier. Not much to say, just that they are useful. They serve a great purpose in the game. So
Those are yeah, those are actually pretty great points. It's probably better than I could have even said it too. It's like, yeah, they are really badass. They can come in at any tier, but there always is like they're following the orders of something or they were created and went haywire. But I just wanted to mention two of my favorite constructs. So one of them is the Iron Golem because that's like the okay, guys, you're getting a little cocky. So you're going to fight an iron golem and it's going to kick your shit in for a couple rounds at least before you kill it.
right.
And then the other one that is possibly one of the most important tools for you to use as a DM when your players are being murder hobos is when you send this at them, they have severely fucked up, like really bad.
Okay,
Oh God, yeah, nah,
I didn't
yeah.
even the inevitables are
Yeah,
I can't even count
I
that.
didn't
the
think about that. Yeah,
Maroots,
yeah.
like just having an I love my favorite thing about it is it just automatically hits you
Yep.
and deals 60 force damage
Yep.
no matter what. Like there's nothing that'll make a high level player shit themselves immediately when it's like, okay, yeah, he just hits you twice for 120 damage and they're like, I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, when you decided to just rove across the countryside and burn down 4 giant cities worth of people, yeah, the Primus is not very happy with you, and he's decided that you are ruining the cosmic balance of things. So now the Marut is after your party,
Yep.
who has turned chaotic evil. I think that's cool. I do think Modrons are pretty cool, even though they do kind of have like they're a little silly.
Yeah.
Some just how they're depicted, they're a little silly. But I do like the concept of like you got the what's the first one called? The single, not the single drone,
Monodrone.
monodrone.
Yeah, I thought it was
Uh,
a Modron. Yeah,
and I
yeah.
like how they each go up. Like as you go up to a pentadrone, they have 5 attacks, but it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mhm.
I think the tri drone is my favorite because he looks the coolest. He's the big triangle
And he
with
has
the
three
three
faces.
sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think he's the coolest. So there's some really cool looking constructs, but I do agree with you at that. Like they are limited because they're a good they're like a good supporting cast, not a main character in like a storyline. I agree with you there with you, Jay. So I think I would put mine yeah, probably like A or B tier. I can't really decide. We'll say like high B tier for me. I'll put them like high B tier.
Yeah, I mean that kind of like addresses everything that I do like about constructs. I have them at the top of B tier for me. So the actually there's one more in B tier, so I don't want to say the whole thing, but they're right above giants for me in B tier just because I think that they are one of the most versatile types in terms of I mean, you would probably have to homebrew it if it's like super low level. Otherwise, they would just kind of just stomp on everybody. But I think constructs are really cool in the fact that yeah, they are like supporting villains and everything. So I couldn't make an entire like arc with the construct as like the main villain, even though there are like I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I know there are like sapient, like sentient constructs, that sort of thing. But
Warforged.
Warforged.
Warforged, and then there's another one that is like a crystal type
Oh, okay.
construct, but I don't remember. It's like it's like a third party homebrew sort of thing, so I don't remember what it is. But I think they could offer some cool exposition if you go to I think probably the most common interaction for constructs are either when you're going up against a wizard or specifically when you're going to like ruins or something like that. Like you have like the stone like golems that are like protecting like the room full of treasure and
It's like,
everything.
it's just a statue, and then he
Right.
he comes to life.
So they do have a lot of versatility with combat, but they also it could be interesting. Like if your players run into a construct that talks or like can understand, then they're gonna just like stop whatever it is they're doing just to talk to this construct and stuff like that. And it's like it kind of has that sound kind of like allure, like in terms of like entertainment and everything of like you being able to like RP this stone golem, like the like you have like the bard trying to like tell jokes to the stone golem or something like that while everybody else is trying to ask actual real questions.
Understand.
Yeah, like it's
humor.
so it definitely has that robot sort of vibe, but I have them at the top of BTR mainly just due to versatility and everything. There's like it's
Yeah.
like Pokemon almost. It's just different types that have different like effects and everything.
Yeah, Pokemon's like a good way to put it, I think, for these. Also, like keep in mind that they aren't they're depicted as robots, but actually they're more elemental than they are robot because
Yeah,
you take
yeah.
a soul from the elemental plane, you imbue it
View it.
into something to turn it into a construct. For most of them, anyways. I don't know if it's like that for Modrons, but for
No,
like the Iron
Modrons are
Golem,
their own thing. Yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
that's a pretty cool thing. So there is like a question like, does this thing have a soul? I mean, technically it actually does if you read the lore. So yeah, you are a piece of shit for killing those stone golems that were guarding that druid's tomb.
I think my favorite one off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. I don't think I wrote down one for specific. I know there's one. Yeah, the cadaver collector. I don't know if you guys have heard of
That's a
Oh
that.
cool one.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
run
That
those
one,
before.
I
that one
haven't ran
is
one, but those are cool.
it's so badass and metal that it's just this like
Taking up
machine.
bodies
Yeah,
and
it's just picking up bodies and sticking them on and using like the souls of like the anguished souls of them to like make basically like cast like spirit guardians almost or something like
yeah,
that.
Mhm.
that is sick.
That's definitely my favorite one. I think they definitely have like a threatening vibe of like being this like I was talking about like inhuman sort of thing. Like this is literally like a machine sort of like an iRobot sort of deal. Like the machines are turning on you and everything. So this is like
Yeah.
the most like or one of the most inhuman things that you go up against because it's not even intelligent or like sapient by like human terms or everything, even if it is intelligent. So I definitely have them at the top of B tier.
That's a good way to put it. I didn't even think of like the iRobot thing. It's like, oh, every construct in the world has suddenly gained
oh
a
yeah,
It's
no, that
binary
would
ideas.
be
code to destroy all life.
Yes,
That would be a cool idea for a
that is cool.
campaign.
Because they're unfeeling, right?
Right.
They're just commands. I did want to bring up one more thing. So the Marut, like you mentioned, is also one of my favorite types of constructs. But it is like they haven't made it in fifth edition because it's like hard to quantify it. But there are these things called the inevitables, and a Marut is a type of inevitable, but they're just these cosmic forces of pure law that Primus, they're like Primus's number one agents, and they go through the multiverse and just correct shit.
Yes.
Right? They like cut whole timelines off and stuff. So they're like indestructible. They just go in and clean up house. So if you just happen to fuck up something in the course of the multiverse, you do not want one of these things after you. And in Sigil, you can hire them out, right? Like you got to pay a lot, but like if you're in the center of the multiverse in Sigil, you can buy an inevitable. Like if you break a contract or something, you could be like, nah, fuck that. Send an inevitable after him. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it is sick. I love those guys.
I've always wanted to do a campaign there. That would be such a cool place to have a campaign.
It's just so much. I know so much about Forgotten Realms that I would have to learn a whole other setting.
Because is it not in Forgotten Realms?
It's its own thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's
It's like it's got its own factions and its own. It is Forgotten Realms technically, but it's also just as much Eberron and Ravenloft, and because it's the center of it all. Your
Yeah.
campaign and S.O.C.K's campaign and my campaign are all in Sigil, right?
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
Sigil went down, or like if Primus for whatever reason, actually I think that's the cool part about Primus as well. Like a quick side tangent about it, because it is like really interesting, like Sigil, and then like the way Primus works and everything. You go down to the Modrons and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
my
really,
goodness.
I really, I hope they were. I don't know why I can't think, but the Modrons are really cool for like that reason of just like being these mathematical like creatures of like pure like logic and law.
We
But like
have been
if
sent
Primus,
to eradicate. Do
yeah,
not stand in our way.
if Primus for whatever reason like was maybe not corrupted or just stopped like it everything there stopped working, the whole multiverse would collapse and stuff like
Oh
that. Like
yeah.
it literally is the it is a personification of the rules. Like that's the whole like like the fairy godparents, like the book of the rules and everything. That's
Yes.
really just what like the like sigil and Primus and all that is.
Yeah, yeah. When Asmodeus betrayed the Celestials, they couldn't figure out who to like do the trial, so they
Mhm.
just got Primus to do it, and it took like 10,000 years because he's so law oriented that he's like, I have to do this from every angle.
Checks
Yeah.
and balances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, yeah,
Asmodeus's lore.
yeah. Me too. Me too. Big fan. So yeah.
Speaking of which, though, the next step I wanted to get into is I wanted to see what you guys' thoughts on Celestials were.
I can I start? Can I go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I ranked Celestials fairly low. Um, and I will tell you why. Because I based it off of my criteria. So I put them in low C tier. Yep, I know. And
No,
I had, listen, I did it live. I live streamed my rankings and people were going off in the chat. They were like,
really.
Mm-hmm.
are you fucking kidding me? But yes, seriously. But I'll tell
This
you
guy
why.
out of here.
So variety and versatility. What is the difference between a Deva and a Solar?
They have less
Damage,
stats. Way
damage,
less
hit
Like
stats,
points. Yeah,
literally,
basically.
like
like, and they're
Yeah.
one of the two core kinds of celestials, right? And they're very just barely different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a lot of celestials, even like archons and stuff like that, they all have the same flavor. They're like, we heal and holy light, and like clerics have more flavor than angels do.
yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you.
so relevance and tiers of play. First of all, relevance in general. The only thing that you can really do with an angel without compromising the core lore of an angel is they're an ally,
yeah,
right? And how often are you gonna be like reaching out to the one angel? It's just not gonna come up that often, right? It can't, it's not unless you do a whole campaign about it,
Yeah.
right? So it's either do a whole campaign about it, or maybe once the cleric reaches out and the angel answers, or they have to near the end, the very, very last, they have to reach out to an angel. The lore is good-ish, but not even close to as good as like the Blood War and the Devils and
oh
stuff.
yeah,
Because they're all kind of the same. They like stay out of everybody's business, you know. I don't know. And you're not supposed to fight them. So from player view, like it would be fucking crazy if an angel, like if you just it's described an angel coming down or helping. I mean, it's so badass. Everyone's pumped,
Yeah.
but like you're not gonna fight it, so it's not as fun.
That's like a divine intervention role, like
Right.
effect or something.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
yes. So I do have them in C tier. They're not D tier for me because they do have uses, but it's niche. And I think niche is kind of like my like what I describe C tier. It's like it's useful, but it's niche.
Yeah.
So that's why I rank Celestial so low. Okay,
I
that's it.
kind of, yeah, man. I definitely really agree on like most of the points. The only reason why I have it, it's at like the bottom of B tier, just bordering on being in C tier for that like very same reason. Is that like from a like standpoint of am I going to use this against the players? There's only going to maybe be like two scenarios. One of them is when it's like a fallen corrupted angel, and at that point, it's not even really like a celestial as is. Like angels, especially in the Forgotten Realms lore and everything, they only act when the god specifically needs like something done, and they will not compromise on what that is. So there's no versatility in the type of interaction. It's either it wants to help you with what you're doing, or it doesn't like what you're doing, and it's either going to just fight you, or like there's no discussion or debate or any nuance that's going to happen here, especially with the lore of like I do like the fact that like I think they have potential as like a fallen angel being like I think that there's also like an arch devil that's like a fallen angel and everything.
Yeah, Zariel.
Yeah,
That's what
Yeah, I
my
was gonna say
campaign's
sorry, I
about.
couldn't think of her name.
yeah, that's the whole reason why I have it at the bottom of B tier is that I think an evil angel, and I think it's one of the coolest parts is that like yeah, it can be evil, but it's never gonna think it's wrong. And I think that's one of the coolest like villains out there and everything. You have like a Thanos type thing. Like this angel believes that because of like the nature of its existence, nothing I do or say could be like comprehensible to you mortals. Nothing I'm doing is wrong. Like I'm doing this for the greater good, and I know only I know what is for the greater good and everything. Like they like you can kind of like play up being like that haughty like sort of like arrogant villain and everything. I think that's pretty cool. But like arrogant not in the same way that like Asmodeus or like a devil would be and everything. Like this entity truly believes what it is doing is the right thing. So I think that that part is cool, but they just have such a lack of versatility. I think they're probably like the least versatile type. The only reason why I have them in B tier as well is because the Sphinx in the new edition has gotten like a major upgrade in terms of lore, and it's a celestial now. Which I think it makes sense for what a Sphinx is. But I do love the Andro Sphinx from 2014, and just the fact that like they kind of tweaked it a little bit in the new book. But I just love the fact that you could just say that like I wouldn't ever do it unless it's like a plot point for the story. But they could literally just say that okay, yeah, so you just age about like what is this been like 3 rounds? You age about like
Right.
30 years or age back 30 years, or it
Yeah.
could just teleport you to hell and then leave. That is like that would be insane. That like a subversion sort of thing. Like they think, okay, yeah, so we have to fight the Sphinx and everything. So next turn, you guys are in hell, and then you guys see it pieces out. Like at that point, what? Or like yeah, like I was saying, like it can move or move forward or slow or move back time and stuff like that, which is insane. Like there's no saving throw or anything like that. You just age. But I do like the 2024 way they did Sphinxes in that especially a Sphinx now is this manifestation of like obsession with a specific study. So I think according to the lore, every time a new thought is had, a new Sphinx is created, and they basically are created with one specific field of study in mind. So you could have a villain be a Sphinx according to the way they have it. There could like my immediate thought is a Sphinx that studies warfare, or like a Sphinx that studies like governance. So it thinks that because of like you could have that same sort of thing of like the arrogant villain thinking that I've like my literal purpose is to understand like how to rule you creatures and everything. So there is potential as a villain. I think Sphinx is probably like one of my favorite creatures just because they're one of the creatures that's an excuse for the DM to lore dump on the players, and I love world building and lore dumping with creatures. And the
Yeah.
Sphinx is really the exact type of thing. Like you obviously could do the riddles thing, but it also has knowledge that's like beyond your comprehension.
That's where you
So,
go. Are your notebooks out? So while you're about to start reading.
mhm.
Yeah, were you done? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Oh no,
off.
that was it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'll go into a big celestial debate here. So even as a guy myself personally who's not very religious, it feels wrong to kill like an angel. So when I think celestial, I think of angels because I don't know if you guys have ever played Magic the Gathering, but Innistrad, the original Innistrad set, like there's a
Mhm.
whole bunch of angel creatures in that set, and the lore of Innistrad is so badass with, like the angels protect like the cities and stuff like that. But like for me it does, like I don't want to kill like the divine beautiful being from the gods because like
Yeah.
they are like this awe-inspiring creatures, so they are limited in that like it's hard to have them as villains unless you're playing an evil campaign. And like I'm a guy that when I play video games and stuff, I can't do bad campaigns. Like I can't do it, dude. I
I'm
Yeah.
the
feel
same
too
way.
bad.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, like in Skyrim, when I was younger, I didn't feel like this, but like I think my first time when I played a game and I felt bad for an NPC was I was playing Fallout and I like shot one of the tunnel snakes and like the other NPCs was like, "Oh my God, you killed him! What the hell's wrong with you?" And I was like, let me reload my save and never do that again, ever. Like, and I think that is like what I think of. Like, if you kill an angel, that's what it feels like. It's like, oh my God, like I just killed this piece of
You
a
kick the
god,
puppy.
or
Yeah.
yeah, like that's kind of what it feels like. Because, um, yeah, they really are just like they are the adversaries if you're playing an evil campaign, but they are major plot points if you're playing a good campaign, because like you're not going to fight an angel unless it is corrupt or something. So, or it would kind of be interesting to do your standpoint, Sock, where it's like the gods have signed a decree that humanoids need to be brought back down to their knees, and they have done too many blasphemous acts. So you describe, as the players are, they're living this hedonist lifestyle, the heavens tear open, the blinding rays of the gods pierce down through the clouds, and just angels start coming down and just vaporizing people. But from what their perspective, they are carrying out the orders of the gods. They're not doing evil things. The
Hmm.
humans are the ones that are doing the evil things. So they're just enacting judgment, enforcing the laws of, the gods. So yeah, it's hard to put them in a category because they really are like allies or enemies. Like there's really no middle ground, and they
Right.
do see themselves as like, you will not understand my judgment, young one, but I must
Yeah.
do this for you. Do not shed tears, for this is what is just. And then like they vaporize the king or something. And it's like
Right.
he was, maybe you didn't know that he was doing some evil shit in the background, but they have to do it. They are good allies, especially like if you did a campaign where hell has invaded the material plane, and then you describe like the heavens open up and all the solars come down with their slaying bows, and they're just firing at devils and they're bursting into ash. I think solars are my favorite
Yeah.
angel.
Yeah.
Hmm.
When I think celestial, I always think angel. I think solar, that's like what
Yeah.
I envision. That's like the classic angel, and the slaying bow thing is like, that's terrifying. That's also like, how you guys keep just like stabbing and robbing every NPC I've sent up to you this entire campaign? Well, it's kind of funny that you guys say that you stab and rob this merchant. So the heavens open up a club.
Right. Right.
There's a
Right.
hail of arrows that come flying down, made of pure radiant energy. It hits the barbarian. He turns into ash before your eyes or
Yeah, like
something.
it's I think that is one of the coolest parts about it is just like it's kind of like the appeal of like why I like when you guys were mentioning about like the inevitables and everything. That's why I like the inevitables. It's like that feeling of same thing when we were discussing fiends. There's this cosmic force that you are legitimately like, it doesn't matter how strong you get, you're never gonna fathom or understand the nature of these beings just because it's so far beyond you. And that killing bow thing is also like a really cool thing. Just I'm just imagining like if at the point, like if, let's just say it's an evil campaign, or the players just think, okay, yeah, we can kill this angel now. We're 20th level. Your
Yeah.
barbarian is like, okay, I have like what, like I don't know how many hit points people have by that level,
It's got like
but
200 hit
yeah, like I've
points.
got like 200 something hit points. It hits you. I'm like, all right, yeah, I should be fine. But, it's just another hit, and like so you die, huh?
So yeah. So sorry, what? Yeah, I didn't. I guess I didn't put them in a tier. I guess I would have to go with like, because of the flavor of an angel, I'm gonna put them in A tier. I know
Hmm.
they're not as versatile and you can't use them as often, but when they show up in your campaign, it adds
It's a
emphasis.
moment.
Yeah, it adds emphasis. It's the exclamation point. It's like shit is getting real now. Like we are talking to angels and they're telling us and they're allying with us, or we've pissed off the angels, we've pissed off the gods, and now like we're in for some shit because the angels are coming to get us. Um, so yeah, I'll put them in A tier for me, but they're cool. I actually haven't. I don't even know if I've ever had one show up
I
Yeah, I've
have.
never
in
had
my
it.
campaign.
Yeah.
I have. I have.
I've wanted to, but like it is hard. It's hard to put them in because it
Exactly.
has to happen late game, and you don't want to do it too many times because then it loses its its impact.
Hmm.
But they are just like awe-inspiring when they show up. So
I mean,
yeah.
nothing like my favorite class is Paladin, and
Mhm.
angels are just fucking awesome paladins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I flavor wise, definitely up there at the top for me. But I will say in my current campaign, my player characters have a follower, we'll call her, but it's a minor celestial, like a very very minor celestial, and something that Sock kind of touched on a little bit was that, oh, I guess you did too, Anthony, is that there's no gray area with them, right? It's either yes or no, right? And I think that having this celestial in the campaign with them, she always asks them questions like she doesn't understand gray areas, right? And the angels don't. Angels don't understand gray areas. They can't. Their brains don't work that way. So it's either good or evil. There's no in between, and that could cause tension, right? Like, but it also is like, she's asking him like, why do people do this? Why didn't you kill them? They were evil, right? And they're like, no, 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 they're a person. We can't do that. She doesn't understand that. So there is a element of nuance to it.
That's really cool, actually. That's like a really good idea because it can even get them to question like their own, like,
oh,
are we
that's why
making the
she's
right
there.
choices?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why she's there for sure.
that is actually really
Jiminy Cricket.
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. She's kind of like a Jiminy Cricket, trying to help him out. Yeah, exactly.
But you did not judge him, for the goblin wanted to eat the baby, so therefore you should kill the goblin. It's evil.
Exactly.
Like you tell them this merchant has been overcharging on their goods during a famine and everything. They just walk up and just like take out their sword. You got to let them know that no, you can't. It's not what you can do.
Turns them into ash or something.
Yeah, they do got to pull her back sometimes. So yeah,
cool.
yeah, that was
cool.
it. That was it.
No, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
actually,
it is kind of a shame because like you don't ever have campaigns where you're gonna go to the heavens instead of the nine hells. So I don't even know if the lore there is no like nine heavens. I don't think
there's seven. There is.
Oh, there's seven heavens. I know there's like
Mount Celestia.
Yeah, Celestia, Arborea, stuff like
right,
that.
Right. Well, there's 7 layers to Celestia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. So
it's a whole
that's the
thing.
equivalent of the nine
Correct.
hells, but
correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, they have like 5 stat blocks or something like that. So I don't like they probably have the least amount of like stat blocks out of like any like creature type I've seen.
And I think that just comes that comes with it's because people don't typically run evil campaigns because it's like, we're not gonna be killing.
Right. This stat block is actually for the DM to fight in the final boss fight against the bad guy.
Give him the cool thing.
Right.
Pretty much. I do want to make some celestial stat blocks. I'm gonna have to get around to that.
Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry, somebody's.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Cool.
That made me also kind of think of something else with the celestial, where you could be like, the challenge is how do we subdue the angel without killing it because it's like charmed by a devil or something.
Sure.
And like we cannot kill this solar. It is like a powerful being that works for like Paylor or something. Like,
right. We can't piss anybody off.
Yeah, like we can't kill him. How do we subdue him? Dude, he's got a bow that just turned the barbarian into a pile of ash. Like, how do we stop him? We gotta stop him. Like that's actually it turns it into a puzzle. Yeah, like
right.
That's like a cool idea to like try to think about that whenever you make any encounter.
Yes.
I always say combat in D&D, if you play it like it's sort of a theater game, combat is the drama. It's the threat that character's storyline ends for good, and you don't want that. That's how you get your characters scared, but also keeps them invested in their character.
Absolutely.
So I always say stuff like that. But
that's good.
Hello, host. Welcome back.
Yeah, no, I definitely I was just listening to you guys' points because I definitely agree with a lot of them. That's an entire other like topic that I think we could get into about like encounter design.
For sure.
I'll make more any video you want to talk about when we
I will definitely. I'd love to come back for that one because I do have my own little opinions on creature design.
For sure, but I think going into the next step, I think it would be cool to talk about what do you guys think about monstrosities? Like, what are you guys' opinions on them and stuff?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first because there's a monstrosity that I have a really big problem with, and I actually had to bookmark it in here.
I think I know what it is.
Show you why I have a problem with it. Okay, so my least favorite monstrosity, I'll talk about the least favorite first, is a Displacer Beast from the 2014 Monster Manual. And here's why. It's a cat, okay? With its attacks, I don't know if I can get that. It's probably mirrored or something.
No, it's reading good.
Yeah, with its attacks, you have a cat monster that does not have a claw attack.
Oh,
Congratulations, wizards. Oh, wait. there's no bite attack either. It's just the tentacle attack on the cat monster. Are you fucking serious, Wizards? So that was one of the first early creatures that I reworked. So like there's a lot of monstrosities that fall incredibly flat, but also there's a lot of monstrosities that are terrifying to fight, like the basilisk, for example.
Oh yeah.
That's an at lower levels, turning to stone, that's a TPK. Like your character's just dead. They can't, unless you have some sort of homebrew rule where they could harvest the saliva glands from the basilisk and pour it on you so you turn back into flesh. That's a TPK waiting to happen. So I would have put monstrosities like right in the middle, because they are feast or famine in terms of like there's a lot of really awesome ones, but there's a lot of really shitty ones that are not represented, I think, to their fullest potential. Displacer Beast being one of them. I think what Wizards tries to do, where they try to encapsulate an entire lifespan of a creature onto one stat block, is not good for that design philosophy. You need to have like a young basilisk, an adult basilisk, a basilisk like patriarch or
That's actually
matriarch.
something they kind of addressed in the new monster manual a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I have to start looking into it more, because from what you guys have said, there's a lot of really cool sounding things in there. So they maybe have fixed a lot of their mistakes with the newer ones. But I'll put monstrosities like right in the middle, like somewhere in B tier. I'll
Mhm.
say I think I'll put them like right there, and then they were sphinxes were monstrosities, but I guess they're
Right.
celestials now, I think. So I did say sphinx was like one of my favorite monstrosities, but I guess I probably doesn't count.
I mean, no, I mean,
Oh
Sphinx
Sphinx or
started
a
in
no.
2014.
basilisk.
Yeah.
Sphinx or a basilisk is probably like my favorite monstrosity,
Hmm.
I think, off the top of my head. But I know there's a ton of other ones that are also really cool. I think are Onkegs
Yep.
monstrosities. So
Yeah,
Onkegs are
Ankegs, yeah.
cool. Um,
Onkegs are cool. That's
yeah,
cool that you said that. I
yeah,
appreciate that, bro.
they're pretty
I
they're
like them
pretty
too.
scary. Cockroaches with giant claws that can also spit, or not claws, mantis arms that
Yeah, I
can
was about to
Yes.
say
spit
they're a
acid,
And they
mixture.
burrow.
and they burrow and
Hmm.
can, nothing more terrifying than that. I'm terrified of cockroaches. Creep Show I have a phobia of roaches because of Creep Show. The
Oh
the
wow.
one Creep
Yes.
Show.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I do.
The scene where they're coming out of the sink, like
Mhm, mhm.
I'm terrified of roaches because of that. But yeah, I'll throw mine right in the middle, B tier.
All right. So I will have to uh cordially disagree with you. In where you put them in the middle, I think that they are teetering on S for me. But they are in A tier for me because they run the fucking gambit. Like out of all in the monster manual, it's called the monster manual, right?
Yeah.
Like there is a monster for fucking everything. I have a list here. So Basilisk, Bullet, Chimera, Displacer Beast, Griffin, Hook Horror, Kraken, Manticore, Medusa, Owlbear, Mimic, Purple Worm, Rust Monster, the Tarrasque. And also in the new monster manual, lycanthropes are also monstrosities now.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's every tier of play. Like you can have a first level encounter with whatever, right? Anything. Um, and then you could also have the fucking Tarrasque, right? Like one of the strongest monsters in D&D period
Hmm.
is also a monstrosity. So you can really they can go anywhere. You can put them in any type of campaign, in any situation, in any encounter. There is a monstrosity that will suit your needs. Um,
That's a good point.
I can't speak for the like you were saying about the accuracy of their stat blocks because I didn't actually like when I ranked monstrosity. It's hard to because there's so like the Kraken is not even close to being on the same playing field as the Mimic, but they are,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
it's hard to quantify it. But I put them really high because like there's there's everything. Medusa can be the core villain of this adventure, right? The Tarrasque can be the core problem of the adventure, right? So I think that just like how Fiends can sort of be, you can have a whole adventure, a whole campaign based around the idea of Fiends. You can also do the same with some monstrosities, not all. But if you want a little encounter, here's a monstrosity. If you want to base your campaign off of it, here's a monstrosity. So
That's a good point. I guess that maybe that kind of like goes into it, whereas like there are so many monstrosities, so maybe just the ones that I was thinking of were like kind of bad, but there are like some really cool ones in there. I forgot that the Kraken was a monstrosity.
Yeah, me
I don't know
too.
why I thought it was a beast for some reason.
I didn't even
Um,
think about what type krakens were, to be quite honest. So yeah, I didn't even think that they were a monstrosity. But yeah, that.
giant fish monster.
Mhm.
right. And I think that like as far as my criteria, variety, relevance, role play and narrative potential, lore and flavor. You were just talking about a displacer beast. They have a whole lore
Oh
just
yeah,
for displacer beasts, right? They have a whole lore just for owl bears, the
yeah.
Tarask. Every single one has their own unique story. And there's like it's cool for players to fight monstrosities. Like a mimic is just as fun as a basilisk or a Medusa or whatever, right? A kraken.
I
They
mean,
have the most puzzle monsters because mimics are kind of a puzzle monster,
True,
just as a basilisk is a puzzle
true,
monster,
true.
where it's like I
mhm.
can't
So is a
look at its
displacer beast.
eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
can't look at
mean,
its eyes. The displacer beast is always moving and shifting. I
moving.
can't hit it. How do we get creative to try to hit it?
Mhm.
that
So
also
I
comes
guess you
up.
are right. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean
Sorry.
to interrupt you.
No. I was done. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was saying that I agree with just mainly the fact as well as this like you guys were talking about the versatility and then also the puzzle aspect that comes from the fact that I mean I don't think there's a more perfect phrase than the fact that it's called the monster manual. It's the most like there's like monsters are literally a part of stories from like the entirety of humanity's history and stuff like that has been people coming up with different monsters and stuff. So uh my type it's the stat block itself isn't really super cool. There's some cool stat blocks for monstrosity, but they're definitely the ones that I think I have to like rework the most if I ever like have like monsters in it and everything. They go for me at the bottom of A tier just because of that like versatility that you guys were talking about and everything of how they could be a low level interaction to the literal like final like quote unquote villain of the campaign and everything and have that like force of nature sort of aspect to them, but in like an animal like bestial sort of way and stuff. So my favorites specifically are actually on kegs. I was talking with Anthony about on kegs. It was either
No
it was
way.
either
We're all
yesterday.
Pancake fans.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it was
are
either
cool, man. They're
it
terrifying.
was either yesterday or the day before that. I think I was talking about on kegs being like, just like my favorite, like one of my favorite creatures in general. They're in my top 10, not even just because of like it's not the stat block is anything special because there are plenty of creatures that have acid attacks and everything, and then it burrows and stuff. But I don't know. They kind of give me the vibes of like if you guys have seen Starship Troopers, just those like bug aliens and everything.
Yeah,
Like there's like something like terrifying. They almost are almost like similar to like the Tyranids from the Warhammer 40K like lore and stuff like that. Of just this like invasive like it's like the cockroach vibe you were talking about how like you just see just like pouring out or just this swarm of just this they're not intelligent but they're just capable enough both mentally and like physically to be able to just be like a real problem and everything, and that marks a monstrosity is that like nature around it is feeling it and everything. Like if a Taras is probably the most like violent example, but if an Ogkeg like nest is nearby and everything, all of the farmers in like all of the cities nearby are gonna like be knowing that something's wrong just because of the
hmm
fact that I think the reason why I like Onkegs as well is I think more so than flying creatures because you can get a spell to fly. It's a whole different threat when your enemy is coming from the ground you're standing on. Like when it just pulls you like, and especially if you make it like a little bit higher tier, because all you have to do with a creature like an Ankeg is just make them bigger or make them mutate and everything. Uh, like when something pulls you underground, that's not something you can just fireball your way out of, or
yeah.
just like, oh, I'm just gonna banish it. Where? Banish it where? There's nothing but dirt around you, and you have to like find a way to crawl yourself back up through 15 feet of solid earth, even if it's like dirt or something like that. I think what the reason why I like Onkex as well is I think that like pretty much unless you're like level like 15 and up, honestly, I think even like a level 15 character somehow being stuck in the middle of the ground is a tall task because like you try to convince me that you can, like even burrowing through like in real life and everything, even burrowing through like 3 feet of ground within, like, for example, like the time span of a single round is like completely impossible. So let alone you being stuck 15 feet underground, and you're going to suffocate if you don't somehow get above ground in like 3 rounds or something, whatever you're
I
calling.
mean,
Yeah.
realistically, how do you stop that as a player? Like, if you grab the wizard as an on-keg and you go underground with them, like, how does he get out of that, mechanically speaking? Like, that is probably one of the scariest puzzles. And you know what? I want to take back what I said my favorite monstrosity is, because my actual favorite just popped into my head just now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure it's a monstrosity, the Remoraz. That's one of
It is.
my
It is.
yeah, that's one of my favorite
Oh, I like
monstrosities.
Remoraz too. Then me and
There's
you can vibe, bro. Fuck
Is
yeah.
that the
yeah,
one?
there's I don't think
Yeah.
there's like the Onceg does a very similar thing where it burrows out, and grabs you. The Remoraz does that, but it's got these crazy, like, it heats its
It's
body
hot.
up,
Yeah, I have a.
thermonuclear heats its body up.
Mm-hmm.
That's sick. And it comes out of the ice, but like just describing the build up to it, it's like you walk across the frozen lake, you look down, you can see these like black shapes at the bottom of this lake. Perhaps it's just some frozen fish. And then, like, suddenly you see these beady yellow eyes open up.
Right.
And then you see the body of it start glowing a red hot before it
Mm-hmm.
starts coming out at you. But, like, yeah, that with like the purple worm scenario, just do that to high level players. He swallows you and then he goes underground 150 feet. What are you going to do now? Uh, I wouldn't even know as a player. I would panic if that happened to like
Right.
one of my allies or
Right.
me.
I
That's a
mean, yeah,
scary scenario.
even on like a realistic level and everything too. Even just the Ankeg itself, like a bullet, any sort of burrowing creature. I think monstrosity might have the most kinds I've seen that have like burrowing creatures and everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But a burrowing creature, I won't go off into a whole side tangent about it, but that it's like the reason why, like, when somebody finds out in real life that like there's moles or like any sort of like burrowing creature nearby, they immediately, you have to like call somebody for this because it could fuck up the whole foundation for an entire city. Like, I'm just imagining the scenario where like a quest for like Ankegs, this nest has gotten so massive that they are like, their tunnels are destabilizing like the infrastructure of an entire village and everything, like the biggest
That
village
would
in
be
like
cool.
the
Yeah,
continent or
that's
something.
actually a really good
A
idea.
city has fallen into a sinkhole suddenly. Nobody knows why. The entire city has just gone silent. You go through the gates and it's like a
Yeah.
crater, and everybody was eaten by on-kegs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the appeal of monstrosities to me, is just like the effect that they have on the environment and stuff. They're not natural, is the thing that, like, even if
Right.
they are naturally born, they still are destructive to the area around them and stuff. So I think that's what I like about them. But the next creature type, I really want to hear what you guys' thoughts are on, because it varies. I've heard like a lot of different opinions. What do you guys think about dragons?
Okay. You mind if I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I put dragons in mid A tier.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Dragons are the name of the game, right? Literally. And I think that dragons are, I mean, I don't need to say anything about it, right? Like, it goes without saying the dragons are fucking awesome,
Yep.
right? Just without even if you don't play Dungeons and Dragons, everybody loves dragons, right? Dragons are fucking sick. I think that the lore is cool on dragons. I think that there's a lot that you can do with dragons. I just think that dragons are a little played out. And like, if you have a dragon centric campaign, that's you did the same one that somebody else did
Yeah.
20 to 50 years ago. You know what I mean? So, there's only so many ways you can play dragons, and I've seen it already. So that's why they're mid A for me. I don't need to go on a whole tangent, right? Like, the lore is fucking awesome. The chromatic, metallic, right? You can have the bad guy dragon and you can have the good guy dragon, right? That shapeshifts into people, right? I mean, like, it's all classic shit. There's no need to go too deep into it on my end. But I do think that they're a little played out, and it's also a little limited, right? Like, if you're going to have a dragon be your big bad evil guy, you can't face that dragon immediately,
Oh no.
right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to fight his minions, which are not dragons. So that doesn't count for his type, right? Like, those are humanoid cultists or kobolds, or I mean, I guess kobolds are dragon, but you know what
Or
I
its
mean? Like,
Mhm.
offspring. You could fight younger dragons too.
true, true,
Dragonborn
true.
or something.
Right, right. But
Abishai. I don't think those are
It's still,
those are
yeah,
real.
like that.
fiends. Avishai are
Oh,
fiends.
are
Oh
they?
yeah.
I
Yes,
did not
they
know that.
are. So
I've never actually ran an actual full adult dragon in a D&D game yet. I know
what?
it's sacrilegious.
Dude, I have.
They've run into like young dragons. Like the
Mhm.
biggest dragon that my players have ever fought has been a young black dragon. And it was a cool fight, but it was like such low level. I think it was like level 5-ish or
But that's the
something.
thing about dragons, right? Is they're like a force of nature, so you kind of have to make it a thing,
Yeah.
you know? So
Mhm.
that I think they're limited in that way.
If there's one nearby, if like the kings of every city in like 100-mile radius is not putting a bounty on that thing's head, your game doesn't feel realistic enough,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah.
No, I feel the
Um,
same way.
yeah, I would put them in. I'll put them in A tier for me. I think some of the most boring dragons would be like the drakes because they're just different colors with different resistances, and
Hmm.
it's really a glorified like
Dog.
iguana. Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially, that's what it is. Just an oversized like monitor lizard that has lightning resistance or something because it has blue scales. Uh, but they can, yeah, like you said, like they do have that same like the same way that you can implement a fiend into your game is like the red dragon has actually been shape shifted into a human as the advisor of the king this whole campaign, and he's been trying to like study the infrastructure of that society so that he could destabilize it at the
Hmm.
perfect time, and then suddenly the advisor turns into a dragon like in the courtroom or something, and it becomes like a whole thing. But yeah, I could totally understand where you're coming from, where they're like played out. But honestly, for me, they're not played out because I haven't ever really ran an actual dragon before. Because I think when I went into it, I have that feeling where like I cannot do stuff that I know other people do, so I always have to try to
Yeah.
be different. So like I have like a weird problem with my brain where
I
it's
do
like,
I'm literally
Yeah.
the same, bro.
I was about to
yeah,
Seriously.
say,
I
yeah, I
don't know
agree with
why.
that.
I've always been like that. Like if I'll play a video game and people will be like, "Yeah, that character is shit. Don't play that character." I'm like, "That's my main. I'm gonna
Yep.
main that character. I have to because I know nobody else wants to play
A
it, so I'll be the
contrarian.
guy that plays it." Yeah. Like Castle in Rainbow Six Siege. He was always people were always like, dude, he's trash. His ability sucks. I'm like, that's my main, bro. I'll play Castle. Fuck you. Um, so I kind of have that same concept where it's like, I don't want to do a dragon because the game is called Dungeons and Dragons, so you expect it. It's too on the nose.
Mm.
So unless you could do somehow like you flip it on its head and it's like the chromatic dragons are somehow like an ally in this campaign for some reason. Yeah, I find it hard to just throw them in willy nilly. I want to do like a hex crawl style campaign where like you might roll a D100 and run into a blue dragon or something, and it's like, well, sorry, eighth level players, you guys are gonna have to figure this one out. It's an adult blue dragon or something, but yeah, they are limited in that like if they're not your BBEG, what the fuck are you doing with them? So I'll put mine in like A tier, and I agree with your opinions on that one, Jay.
I mean, like, like once again, you guys have kind of brought up a lot of the stuff with it. I think especially the reason why I haven't used dragons either up until the point, not even just for the fact that like I haven't played like any like Forgotten Realms or like regular fifth edition games. Um, I think that part of that's part of the reason why I haven't run dragons is just that thing of like it mainly also comes from the fact that like I love like writing and stuff and like yeah like D&D isn't like a book or anything like that, but it's like that like tired territory that you guys were talking about and everything. Like dragons are one of the most common. They're probably the most common monster in like all like mythologies, like in the real world and everything. And like there's a dragon in really every single piece of like writing out there if it delves into like fiction and stuff. I probably even if I ran like a fifth edition game with like Forgotten Realms lore, I would not use any lore. I haven't even looked up any lore for dragons for Forgotten Realms because that to me a dragon isn't like there wouldn't be multiple types of the same dragon to me like that like yeah I like the fact that they type out ecologies for certain dragons and everything. The dragon to me isn't like a species though, like these are the closest things to gods that there are like on the material world and everything would be a dragon, so it's not a red dragon, it's the red dragon. Or like it's the same thing of like how the Tarask is the Tarask and everything. That's my opinion of how dragons should be. Like these things, they're not just forces of nature either. They're like forces of nature with intelligence that dwarfs even like, nearly the smartest humans out there and everything. And on top of that, they have an ego twice as big as well because of the fact they know they're dragons and everything. It's like I don't know, it's very random, but it kind of made me think of like the thought that I know I've talked to a couple people about it. I've set a dog as an example, but you could put any creature that would be like a physical threat to a human. It's like it's different when the creature knows that it's like superior to you in every single way. And dragons kind of have that vibe of like Anthony, you actually ran a dragon probably like in the like one of my favorite representations of it for like a home game
In
sort of
Shadow
thing.
Dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we ran into a ice dragon or a white dragon specifically in that moment because like we're regular people and everything. Once you said that there was a dragon, that's the intended effect that I think a dragon should be. That regardless of whether it's good or evil, you're looking at something that's so like that dwarfs you in like a very like it's almost the most relatable way that you can be like dwarfed by a monster, if that makes sense. It's just like just pure inferiority. It's not like, oh, this creature is like a like denizen of hell itself, or it's like this extra planar thing. No, this thing is just quite literally just a superior being that knows it is. um so that's the reason why I have dragons in. They're second. They're near the top of A tier for me, even though I haven't ran them yet. And that's just specifically for the fact that in the dragons I have in like my campaigns, that is a hallmark event when it shows up. Like these things are like have significance that can't really be explained. So uh, I feel like as long as you give them the respect they need, they have like all of the tools you need as like a villain, whether that be as a main villain or just something the players encounter and stuff.
As a player, your heart has to go into your stomach whenever you like the DM describes one as like in
Yeah.
your game. I actually I kind of lied. So I did have a full ancient dragon in my main D&D 5e campaign, but it was a metallic dragon, and
Oh,
they clocked it immediately. So that does kind of like it's overly played out. That really does play into that. I just thought of that as Sock was talking about like I had like a patron in a tavern who was like being really friendly and like buying the characters drinks and like asking them all sorts of questions because I think he was a brass dragon and they're like
mm,
really conversationalists.
right.
Like they want to learn stories and hear things and they'll literally hold you down and force you to tell and like force you to tell them like your life story basically. But like
Mm-hmm.
they're not bad, but they clocked it immediately. They were like, "Oh, this guy's a dragon. He's been around for a long time. He's got
Fuck.
a lot of wealth. He wants to know all our stories. He won't tell us how old he is." And I was like, man, they really like, damn, they're good. It's like they
Yeah.
really are played out. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. It's like that it kind of sucks because they are really cool, but like it's hard to get your players with the surprise that like, oh, surprise, it's a dragon. I
Yeah.
think they kind of know it's coming, even though unless you just do what I did with like Shadow Dark, where it's like you just la di da di da, you stroll around the
Boom,
corner and
there's a
it's a white
dragon.
dragon, and you're
Yeah.
like,
I've done that
and
before.
you just look up and like, oh fuck, dude, we're dead, basically.
So I wanted to say one more thing. We are talking about all the flaws that we see in dragons. We all ranked it A tier, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta we gotta reinforce that dragons are fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like dragons are one of the coolest things. It's the game's named after it. Dragons are the best. It's just the name of the game, right? Like
You see
they
Yeah.
a
just
zombie
played out.
movie and then like 14 other zombie movies come out. It's like, okay, I know what a zombie is at this
Right.
point. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's the same
Exactly.
concept, I think. But
Right.
they're still like the grandfather monster
Yes.
of all monsters.
Absolutely.
I just think as long as you give them the respect that they need, I think they like I was saying, like yeah, I think they check off all the boxes you need for a villain and everything. And that I think they also probably are like the creature that I would most like emphasize their regional effects and everything. Is like I was saying, they're like probably the biggest deal. I can't think of any other creature on the material plane that would be a bigger deal than a dragon if you played it the right way and stuff, So yeah, no, that they're solid A tier for me.
I like your point too, and I know you probably want to move on to the next monster, but I like what you said, Sock, about how their thought process is like an animal, but given sapient level intelligence, where it's like humans are nothing to me. You are ants to me. You are a cockroach. I will exterminate you. You mean nothing to me. And like as a person trying to imagine, like currently as we know it in the real world, we are the top of the food chain in terms of just like intelligence and like sapience and like spirituality and stuff. Now, what if there was another creature that's seen us how we see like cockroaches and termites? Like,
Hmm.
what if they just seen us as an infestation? And that's a scary feeling, especially when that creature is 20 times you in terms of power, lifespan, possibly even intelligence, capability. So that's another bonus to dragons. I just wanted to compliment you on your point that you made about them.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, no. I could talk about I feel like dragons are also the type of creature where you can make a whole video discussing them just because they have like the
Oh yeah.
gravitas that like, you know, your main villain like can naturally have, or like, like that they have that aura, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
Mm-hmm.
and
got
actually
that
that's
thing.
one of their features, one of their hallmark features is literally the frightful presence. They literally have
Mm-hmm.
aura. Like that's
Yeah,
how they,
Exactly.
they literally have
If
aura.
you
Yep.
don't get scared, your character's gonna get scared.
yeah.
Oh,
Um
that's good.
but the next region I wanted to get into, I've also had it's also probably maybe the second most like, I don't know what word I was trying to think of, but the second most interesting type of creature I think to discuss with people is Fae. So I really want to hear what you guys have to say about Fae because they're one of my favorites.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I put Faye in S tier. I love
Whoa, you're not gonna
Faye.
like what I gotta say.
Well, that's all right. I love Fae, specifically hags. I think hags have just like there's something about like this pagan, creepy feeling that a hag can do to
Hmm.
you as a person that like hags are sort of how we were just talking about dragons, where they are these ancient things. You are nothing but a plaything to this creature whose thought process, similar to how we were talking about the angels, does not work how our thought process is. We are toys to them. Our souls are currency to them. Um, they can cast wishes at will, and they can weave your fate into different ways, like. And there's also like cool little fey things like sprites. I think sprites are cool. They're just like little things, like there's happy fey and then there's like really dark fey, so like
Hmm.
they cover both sides of the fantasy spectrum in a way that it's really hard for other creatures in this category to do that. um because the Feywild is like emotions, but like ramped up and with the dial turned up to 100. So like
Yeah.
that's what the Feywild is. So I like how the Shadowfell and the Feywild cover the two spectrums of like humanity in a way, in terms of just like raw emotion. So I feel like Fae really encapsulate that really well, and it's hard for me to like say Fae are like trash or something just
Hmm.
because of hags and stuff like that. Uh, but I could totally understand how you could say they're bad or something. But I have to put them in S tier because I just love hags that much, and it's really fun to role play a really creepy, crooked back like creature with spindly arms. Like, oh, so you've come to make a deal with Greta, have you? Well, what would you like to offer me then? And then like it's like, oh, I offer my firstborn child to you, my lady, or something. And having the player have to give up something that's crucial to their player character's backstory, or like crucial to their character to get some sort of boon, is such a creepy, um not a deprived feeling, but like a violating feeling.
Yeah.
That's like a good way to put it. Like you can role play Fae in like a very like it's violating you on a spiritual level. So that's my opinion with Fae. I'll put them in S tier just because of the role play potential with them, and they do cover all tiers of play too.
Mm.
So, but I'm curious, Jay, how what did
All
you
right,
put them
so
in a
I will
D
say
tier?
I didn't put them in D tier. I do think that there is a place for Fae.
Mhm.
I put them in C tier, and as we discussed before, C tier for me is niche, right? So that's like my description of everything in C tier was niche.
Mm,
So the way that I feel about Fae, I love hags too. Totally. They have the same sort of deal that devils have,
yeah.
right? Except they're a little more unsettling, right? They
Hmm.
they're not gonna try to play up being nice, right? I mean, maybe they will. They'll offer you some tea, but they're fucking horrifying, right?
Yeah.
Like you're looking at it, you're like, no, thank you. I don't want anything to do with any of this.
It's maybe tea
Right.
made of
So
like melted bones or something.
right,
Yeah.
right. And they have weird magic, which is like a style of magic that uses
They break a mirror
right.
or something.
Yeah,
And
like
your
weird.
like arm like breaks or
Yes,
something.
exactly, exactly. They interact with the weave differently than anyone else in the world.
Mhm.
So I think that is interesting. Um, and the dark fae and the light fae, right? So there's like you were saying, fae are emotion manifest, right? So if devils are lawful evil manifest, the fae are just emotion manifests. So emotion is strong. It's a strong feeling. So there is extremely happy and extremely pissed,
Yes.
right? Or and that's all of the emotion. It covers the whole spectrum. But you, Anthony, are sort of honed in on the unseelie fae, right? Like the creepy, dark feeling fae.
Yeah.
But you have to lump in the seelie with the unseelie, right? Because they are two sides of the same coin. And I feel like implementing, like you could do a whole campaign with fae, but that's your whole campaign, and you also have to go to the Feywild.
Yeah.
Right. So throwing in a fae as just like a random thing is either a hag, which is I can't just base it off of hags. It's unfair to the rest of the fae.
Right.
So they would be carrying for sure. But I think that implementing a satyr randomly is just a cool encounter. It's not quintessential to my campaign, right? It's the same kind of thing that because I put Celestials in C tier too. It's the same kind of thing that Celestials struggle with, where it's like, this is a thing that I'm doing that's cool, and you guys can interact with this, but it's not going to be majorly important for my campaign. Or it could be like, there's a bunch of people that are really angry, so some red caps pop out of the ground or something, like, and now that's a thing that they have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think Faye struggles with, and why I don't run Faye very much, is because Faye are purposefully ununderstandable by humans. Right? Like the way that they operate and their rules. Like you could just say, oh, the weather's nice today. And that pisses off a Fae to no end.
Why did you say about my mother?
Right. And now they're like, now you owe me something. Right. And then they take like amorphous shit from you. Like you're like, oh, I give you my word, I'll do this. And they're like, oh, you give me your word. And now you can never speak again.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
That's cool. They are hard. They're hard to play well, I will say too. Because I tend to want to talk in rhymes whenever I play fake creatures, but I'm not good at doing that. So like I might have to write down some dialogue points just to
I did one
me.
that was alliteration. I think that's a little easier to improv, where they do the same letter in the sentence, right? It's a little easier and it still sounds kind of fey.
Yeah.
Rhyming is tough. I've done that before.
If you can do it well though, it perfectly.
Oh yeah. No, I'm with you, bro.
Oh my god, I love this NPC. this satyr that's like toying with me or whatever.
Right. And that's the other thing, right? Is the unseelie, some of them are like opponents, like hags are mostly opponents, but a vast majority of the fae aren't really bad guys. They're just weird.
It's very gray.
Yes, they're just
gray.
fucking weird things.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh yeah, it's on site with these guys. It's not really. So that's why I
just
ranked
want to
them
eat your fingernails, sir. Please give me your fingernails.
Yeah, and it's weird shit like that, right? So you kind of have to have a mindset to think like a fae, and they're designed to be impossible for humans to understand.
That's a good point. Yeah, your opinions are like all totally valid. I get caught up in like I love the flavor so much that the flavor brings it up a couple tiers.
For sure.
Just because, but like you have like a utilitarian style ranking system that's actually probably more accurate than mine. I'm going off of my emotions
Of
towards the
course.
creature. But like yours,
Emotions on the emotional creatures.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
no,
yeah,
like this. My
yours
list
are
is
yours are
mostly
probably
vibes. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say like are definitely I think your list has been the most accurate in terms of like actual because they are a niche creature. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a Feywild campaign. I actually ran a Feywild campaign. It was pretty fun. Um, it was very interesting role playing societies in the Feywild and like I had a creature from the Kobold Press book. They're called Naya Atha. They're like these ape-like creatures, but they have like an actual a warlike society, and they could like cast enlarge on themselves and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
what was fun was they had their own ideals that you had to gain affinity via appealing to these ideals that these
Right.
Ny'altha had. So they thought that like strength was a really that was important to their society. So whenever the wizard tried to offer them like a flower or something, they lost affinity. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
they look at you and they look like they want to tear your head off. And then like the barbarian people who don't typically get to RP a lot because they have low charisma was like, I'll offer to fight you in one-on-one combat. And then like he gained a shit ton of affinity just out
Right.
of
They loved
doing
them.
that. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
they loved them for it. So like it is really fun to just really hone in on like if you can manipulate the emotions of these fae and like what they represent, you can get really high up in their society. And like
Yeah.
there's something that to say with like the fantastical element of the Feywild. You can describe some of the most beautiful, breathtaking environments in the Feywild. Um, sorry, Sock, I'm taking up like
Oh no, you're all good. No,
all your
I
time here.
enjoy like listening to what you guys have to say, and I also like I agree with like like
This is
having
forever
the
DM
entire thing.
passion coming out because like
Oh
I'm
yeah, no,
only a DM. I never get to be a player, so
no, that's
I
part of
read a lot
why
of lore.
that's part of why I was excited to make this video, like talk about these sort of things and listen to what you guys have to say. Because that is part like I understand the reason why they're lower for you, Jay, but I do actually I think while there is like some like downsides to the fact that I'm not as familiar with like the lore of like fifth edition creatures and the actual like Forgotten Realms sort of stuff. Um, I do think that part of the reason why Fae are at the top of A tier for me, bordering on S tier. The only reason why they're not S tier is because of how niche they are. But it's a niche specifically that I enjoy probably the most in storytelling when it comes to magic. So magic to me isn't like I feel like a lot of magic, not even with just D&D, but I think D&D is probably the best example of it. Like when I just like from a writing perspective of like D&D is kind of like or not D&D, magic is like magic by nature is supposed to be weird, more weird than it is just like powerful. Like it's not just shooting like lightning bolts or like calling storms and everything. It's like like random spells that can like like make like change your mood for the day or something like that. And I think Fae are probably like the best representation of magic to me. In that it's not just like yeah, like I was saying, like it's not just a source of power. It's this thing that's beyond human understanding. Like it is by nature weird. Like that's what magic is. Like according, like the best representations of it. And Fae are like the example of like magic being like so. There's like with the Unseelie and then the Seelie court and everything, or just good Fae and bad Fae. You have good acid trip and then bad acid trip.
Yeah.
Like they're
True.
like two ends.
True.
They're like two ends.
True.
Like you either get like, oh, this is the most beautiful description that I've ever heard, or like the nature, or like this creature that came up that's like super like happy and beautiful. And then you have the other side where they're like, this is the most effed up thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But like Fae have that sort of thing of like being emotions and stuff like that. And I just like I dig like fairies as well as like for like they're like one of my favorite creatures just in general, like of any fictional creature out there, fairies. That's the reason why hags are my second favorite monster. Like honestly, you can go with any hag. It's not really any specific type. I'll probably say maybe like like the green hag or something like that. That's probably my favorite. They don't mechanically. I would homebrew the fuck out of like any hag that I've
You
had.
have
Oh
to.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
have to. They're trash how they're
But yeah, like
implemented,
I
in
don't
my opinion.
understand why they're like low CR. But that's a whole different rant. The actual like flavor effect of hags to me are probably like I think they probably are the personification of evil to me more than like yeah, fiends can get super fucked up, but it's like from a player's perspective, like when you're interacting with the story, you're like, okay, yeah, this is fucked up because this is a demon, this is a devil. So there's some level there where you're like, okay, yeah, this is I expect the most depraved things ever. You see just like a really like ugly old lady that is like has like furniture made like the Ed Gein type shit of like where
Yeah.
it's like Ed Gein dialed up by like 10, honestly, with hags and stuff. And I think they probably have they're gonna be dark, but they don't necessarily have to be villains in the campaign. They could just be they're also another creature that is an excuse for the DM to lore dump, or because they would have some very like, secrets of the universe type
Yeah.
information and everything. So they're Fae I think are like very versatile. It just depends upon it's like, like what you guys were saying of like how when they show up, um that's an entire like section of the story and everything. Like you can't just have them just be around and stuff. So I won't go off into a whole 15-minute rant about it. I really like the Fae a lot.
Your point there about like it's scarier when like the hags do it. I think it's because devils and demons do stuff out of for like the point of the gains.
Mhm.
Not that they don't enjoy it, but hags do it because they enjoy it. They enjoy they see beauty as ugly. So like when we see a very beautiful like supermodel, to a hag, that is the most disgusting thing that she's ever seen in her life, and she wants to destroy it.
Right.
That's
Mhm.
what's so alien about them. Like they think ogres are sexy, and it's like, oh, the big drooling oaf with the stinky armpits
Yeah.
and the shit stains running down his legs. She thinks that's the sexiest thing she's ever
Right,
seen.
right,
And it's
right.
like I can't even wrap my head around it. That's what's like scary about it.
Mm.
Um,
I mean,
I
like
want
with the sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to add one more thing to this conversation.
Mhm.
Um, when we're when you're talking about Seelie and Unseelie, they're two sides of the same coin, but they also both have two sides to them as well, right? Like Seelie are pretty and nice, but they're also hedonistic.
yes.
And you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they are the good to the extreme, right? So they're like always on drugs, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
too much, right?
Alice in
And
Wonderland is like a perfect example, I
yeah,
think,
that's right.
of like the Sealy stuff, right?
Right, right. And then the Unseelie, the same thing. Like they might be like evil, but they'll like talk to the party, right? Hags or Unseelie, they will make a deal with the party,
Mhm.
right? Because they don't see themselves above everyone else,
Right.
like the Seelie do. So that's just something I wanted to add. It's like they do have flavor both
Yeah.
ways on them.
Oh yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
that
they are very, very cool. Like it's such a cool moment, especially like I don't know, it's for something for me, like when you go to the Feywild and you're describing like mushroom forests and stuff, and the grass is this like neon blue color. Like there's just something so cool and fantastical about that. I mean, it is
mhm.
like an acid trip. It's like, whoa, man, this is
Yeah.
crazy, bro.
That's what
But
I
it's
think
sick.
that's what I think magic should be in a story and everything. It's not like I don't appreciate other like aspects of like, there being like dedicated schools of magic and stuff. But the Fae is I think how I would represent or how I have represent whenever I've done magic and everything. It's more Fae like. Not everything is like, weird hag shit, but like it is very much still that same sort of like it's a fantastical not even energy source. It's like magic is not a quantifiable thing. I think Fae like kind of have that vibe with it.
And Faye, like you were talking about, like seeing this like the Feywild, when you're seeing this crazy acid trip landscape, how you feel about that also affects
Yeah.
the landscape around you, right? So if
Yeah.
you're scared in a scary forest in the Feywild, it gets scarier,
Yeah, that's
right?
another cool thing. It feeds
Yeah.
off your
It
emotions.
the whole place does. If you're like pissed off, a red cap will just pop out of the ground and start trying to kill you, right?
Right,
Like that.
right.
The Feywild is just this weird place that emotion is king.
Hmm. I do like also like you were saying, like we can't just only focus on hags. There are some like fae that I think are just really cool, like quicklings.
Hmm.
They're Hermes, but like you turn them into a creature, and they're
Right.
little tiny things that they're like messengers. They run at the speed of light, and they just show up. Message for you, sir. The Fey courts are summoning you for your
Whatever. And then they're
your court hearing. Please arrive in 3 days or be eradicated. They fly away. They run away
that's
from
right.
you. So like it's cool to just role play little silly little guys like that. But then also if you piss off a quickling, that's
You're
actually pretty scary
you're
too
gonna get
Yeah.
fucked
because
up.
it's a thing that moves like the Flash, but it has a little dagger. So it's like running past you, slicing your leg open. Like that, what's stopping it from climbing up to your jugular and going
There's like an
stabbing you like 80 times?
entire bad guy in a Legend of Dritz novel where there's like a ogre bad guy, but he has a quickling minion. And there's like a whole chapter dedicated to how Dritz is trying to fight this goddamn thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, like they have so many different flavors. I think that's what one of my favorite things about the Fae. Like they come in so many different flavors. I was gonna ask you because you seem like you're really well versed in like the Seelie and Unseelie lore. Are satyrs Seelie or Unseelie?
They can be both. So Seelie and Unseelie isn't necessarily it's not necessarily tied to any specific monster type.
Okay.
Most like hags are generally Unseelie, right? But theoretically, according to the lore, there could be a Seelie hag.
The Wicked Witch of the East or whatever.
Yes, correct.
The princess.
It's a state of mind, not a.
I see.
So you could have a
Okay.
either or, and also there's called Wild Fae, which are like fucking dryads and shit, where they don't really care about the courts. So yeah, they're more nature focused.
Sweet. You learn something every day. I love it. Yeah,
I
love the lore.
I was kind of saving. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say about Faye before we move into the next type?
No, I think I got everything I wanted to say.
All right. Well, I saved my favorite two monster categories for last.
Yep, I thought that was the case.
So the first, my second favorite type of creature. I'll let you guys go first, but we're going to talk about undead. What do you guys think about undead?
S.O.C, why don't you go first, man? Why don't you go
Okay.
first? You seem excited.
Yeah, I wanted to be. I want to be a gracious host, but yeah, I will 100%
No, go
talk
ahead.
about undead.
Go ahead.
I think that my favorite, I think it's just because of like what got me into like horror, which is a genre just I've come to appreciate over like the last 2 years and everything. It that's more related to like Lovecraft when it comes to like aberrations, but it's the same reason why I like aberrations and stuff. I kind of spoiled myself, but yeah,
Restart the video.
undead. Yeah, we gotta start over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so undead are like this like I think they're one of the creatures similar to dragons, how they are. They do kind of come off as like played out to me. But I think the way that you subvert that is by making them one of the rarest, if not the rarest type of like creature to show up. And primarily the reason why like I love them so much and like implementing them in my campaigns. One of my campaigns is literally I don't want to say too much about it because I want the players to potentially watch this. But undead are going to be very centrally focused in it and stuff. And I think that it kind of comes down to it's a separate topic, but I don't do like resurrection or any sort of like if a player dies or like if somebody that they care about dies, then that's it for them, unless it's like some sort of powerful like ritual. But regardless, anytime somebody comes back to life, something on a cosmic level is seriously wrong. And I love that aspect of undead. If you play that up and make it a rare thing, when the players do run into like a zombie or something like that, you're like, okay, so this is an unholy like sort of
abomination.
Yeah, it's an abomination. It's an affront to life. Like, and that's like the theme of the monster and everything, or the monster type. My favorite type of undead specifically is the. I want to make sure, yeah, because I have a couple that I like. I probably say it wasn't before I got the 2024 Monster Manual, but the Draco Lich in the 2024 Monster Manual is probably the biggest glow up I've seen with any creature in my time of like D&D. Because in 2014, this Draco Lich is clearly just a big skeletal dragon that has a necrotic breath attack. In the 2024 one, it represents what I like about undead and how just the Dracolich's presence could cause a nearby town to die over the course of a week because you can't benefit from rest when you're near this. That's one of the regional effects it has, if I'm not mistaken, is that you can't benefit from a rest if you're near the Draco Lich. So an entire town just dies from like their life force slowly waning, and that's the threatening part about undead is just this thought of like a fate worse than death, that sort of thing. Of like I could be this zombie that I'm fighting and everything. And if you dial that up and like, if you make human lives a lot more, like you emphasize how precious human lives are, when that zombie shows up and everything, it's really going to feel like an unholy abomination. So I won't go into a whole 30-minute rant because I do want to hear what you guys have to say, but they are an S tier for me in only seconds and one other type of creature.
Do you want to go next, Jay, or do you want me to go next?
I would love to, please.
Go ahead.
So undead are S tier for me. I only have two in S tier, and it's Fiends and Undead.
Mm-hmm.
And that is due to them being the fucking best thing. Like, no matter what, it's on site with undead. No matter what. No matter what situation it is, it's on site with undead. Always. Sometimes there's little niche situations like a revenant is nice to you, but most of the time it's like, this is a bad guy, go kill it. No questions asked. It feels good. You just fucking bomb them.
Yep.
But it's not just like, oh, this is a monster, you get to fight it. No. There's vampires. There's liches. There's the Draco Lich, right? A Death Knight, right? Like I'm talking every flavor of thing that you can have. Like there's corporeal and incorporeal undead. And within that, there are ghouls. And then what, you don't like the ghoul? Okay, you need a stronger ghoul. There's a ghast,
Yep.
right? You know what I mean? Or even lower tier, we got a skeleton, right? And then we got the zombie. I mean, it's for every tier of play. No matter where you are, you can find them any fucking where. You could throw an undead in any adventure and it would always work. Always, no matter what. There's no questions asked. And you can create such crazy stories with undead being the main bad guy or a minor bad guy. And unlike some of the other types, like let's say a dragon is the main bad guy, right? He can have cultists or maybe some minor dragons underneath of him, but mostly he's going to have other types of creatures that are going to be his minions, right? Not a lich. A lich is it's just undeads all the way down, and none. It's always interesting to fight one. There's so many different types that you can mix and match and put it on there's two skeletons and two zombies, but then there's also all fucking white, and he summons specters, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I mean, just by themselves, lore wise, it's fucking awesome. Liches have their whole thing. Draco Lich is two of the badass things mixed together, right? So, and then also just like a Death Knight or a vampire. There's a whole Curse of Strahd as an entire adventure that is centered around one vampire. So no, like I could also go on and on about how awesome undead are, but unquestionably top tier, classic, nothing's better. That's what I had to say.
I put undead in F tier. No, I'm just kidding. Minor in S tier also.
We're about to end this video right here.
Undead are the quintessential. Like I feel like no matter how much you overdo undead, they will still be the iconic villain in any campaign. Liches are absolutely, utterly terrifying. Those are some of the most infamous things that could cause a TPK, like casting power word kill on a player character. There is nothing that sucks the life out of the room more than that, literally and figuratively. Like, I'm sorry, man, but he casts power word kill on you, and then like everybody around the table just collectively jaws to the floor. It's such a exclamation point, and there are so many different varieties of undead. Like zombies are also terrifying. Like if you really think about it, like an enemy that is unfeeling, it does not care, it does not have morals. It's one thing that it exists for is to snuff out life. It is the opposite of life. If there's positive energy and negative energy, undead are negative energy. That's what is so scary about them. Like in my game, when I homebrew all of my undead, like necrotic damage heals them. I think that's how it used to be in older editions, but I think it should come back. Like undead should be immune to stuns, anything that's like poison related. It should require a paladin or a cleric, and that's really where they shine too, as a paladin and a cleric. When you turn undead, or when you smite the zombie who's vulnerable to radiant damage, and like you literally, like you bring down the wrath of God on these things that are abominations to lay. They should be offensive to even lay your eyes upon.
Yeah.
And another thing to do with undead too, if one of your players gets turned into an undead off camera, or one thing that I like to add into all of my undead stat blocks is I have a thing called mortal dread. So when you see an undead for the first time, they are always terrifying to you. It doesn't, even if you're a seasoned adventurer, it's kind of like a dragon's frightful presence, but it's just like a one-time thing. You
Yeah.
make a saving throw. If you succeed, you're not afraid of them. However, I had a little caveat in all of my mortal dread description where it's called familiar face. If you recognize the thing that you were looking at as somebody you knew in its life, you have disadvantage on that save. So now
It's really
when the
interesting.
lich, yeah, when the lich turns the guy's paladin into a zombie when you guys were like level 8 and you ran into him on accident in his tomb, and now he's the BBEG, and then he says, "Oh, well, why not introduce you to your old friend? Perhaps it can be a family get together." And he like raises his hand down, and the paladin shambles out as now a death knight. And your guys are like, "No, no, you
Yeah.
fucking did it, you asshole!" Like that's how you get your players, man. And like undead are the only things that you can do that with vehemently, other than like charming something with like a succubus or something like that. But it's not the same. It's not as violating as he turned his corpse into a zombie who is now coming to kill you. So S tier for me, 100%. Like too iconic, even more iconic than a dragon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Agreed with that.
I mean, the only reason why I had said anything about making them rare, I'm not even saying that like undead are obviously gonna be like a major thing, and like I don't want to keep talking about my campaign, but it's like primarily the reason why I like undead is this, the like you were saying, like the violation of life. And the way I wanted to set it up, like for example, like so I had tried to like set it up like plot hook wise and everything, essentially, where I told like, you know, there's this NPC who's like a chef and everything, and his daughter went missing a couple years ago. So I made sure to endear the players to that NPC and stuff. So they go to like a party essentially, and they find the, this is like spoilers if you haven't listened to the campaign, but it's like one like on like episode 3 or some shit. The daughter was, you know, quote unquote found and stuff, but she's acting weird and stuff. I won't go into all plot details. The whole reason why I mentioned that is because they left and then ran into a whole bunch of zombies. Like people started like suddenly turning into zombies and stuff. So they eventually go to try to like check on the chef to make sure he's okay and stuff. And they come back to go into the kitchen to see him lying on the ground, his like stomach, his a stomach, a
Uh,
gaping wound in his stomach, and his daughter has turned into. I kind of got inspiration from the I forgot what the game is called, Left 4 Dead, like the acid drooling zombie and everything. But his daughter, this person that I had established that they knew in you know in life, like you were saying, is now this 10 foot tall hulking, you know, decaying zombie with acid drooling out of their mouth. It's just like, especially it's like the, yeah, like when you know the person from their lifetime and everything, seeing them as this abomination with their like their ribs showing and all this other stuff is like, it has like such a deeply unsettling like feeling on a human level. So that's just why they're like just such a S tier type of monster to me.
especially when you put yourself in that, where you try to be like, when I was younger, I used to just say, man, I wouldn't be the guy that goes, "Oh my God, Clarice, no." And like, I would just shoot. It's like, no, you wouldn't. If you've seen your girlfriend or your dad turned into a zombie and coming after you, you would have that like, that feeling of, oh my God, like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what's the video game, where you plays Lee?
The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead, yeah, yeah. That was one of the most sad endings to a character. Like I cried at the end of that game because that is such a gut wrenching feeling. Because zombies can be like that force of nature, where like
Mm-hmm.
they are like this force that cannot be controlled, but like the humans end up always being the scarier things in that scenario. But like they can be a force of nature too, just as like elementals can. So like they're
Right.
not limited really in any way. Like undead really are not limited by anything. They really can feel. Another cool thing, and I'll try to make this one brief because I know they have one more to get through. Revenants, letting your players come back as a revenant, that is like a really cool feeling. You don't want to do it all the time because then death doesn't have a meaning. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say like a player character dies, and like you sit there and you ask that player, like, are you satisfied with the ending of Bartholomew's story or whatever?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then he's like, is the character Bartholomew, does he feel like he achieved his goal in life? And it's like, I don't think he does. And it's like, okay, roll a D100. If you get above 30, he comes back as a revenant, and you have 1 year until he until he crumbles to dust to
Hmm.
exact revenge and help the party. And then at the end of that campaign, that's a sad moment whenever he knows his time has come and he's going to just turn to dust and blow away in the wind. And then you have everybody at the table crying and
Hmm.
high-fiving. But like you can have some beautiful moments, and it's weird to say that. Like there's a weird, like, you can have a beautiful moment as like a revenant character or something. So they really are S tier in every way, shape, or form, I feel like.
It also plays upon a human, like I think not even a human fear. Any like living being like that has like a lifespan has death as the most like it's something that people like in real life nobody wants to just talk about death and everything because it's like it's this it's probably the peak of other than the type we're about to get into. I think it's the peak of the type of villain where it's not a it's not evil in the sense that like a person deciding to be evil. It's this force that is inevitable for all creatures, and like it's to
Yeah.
the point where all creatures, that's why people become liches. Like it's such a powerful force that everything that can die tries to avoid it.
And
And
going
yeah.
the process of becoming a lich is horrifying. It's
Hmm.
horrendous. Like you have to like literally drink a potion that like disintegrates your insides or something like that.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
So yeah, no, I don't want to. Undead are like one of those creatures where you can make an entire like hour long like video
Oh, I'm
discussing
gonna
it.
do
So I don't
that for
want to go
this. I'm
into.
gonna do that for
Yeah,
this next one
yeah,
anyway. So
yeah. Next up, getting into it, I'll definitely let you guys go first because I have this is a creature type that is so rant worthy that I legitimately rant about it to people in my life. Like in real life, I'll be talking about this specific creature type. Or I found this really cool stat block. But yeah,
I'm curious to
aberrations.
hear your thoughts, man. I'm curious to hear your
Aberrations.
thoughts.
What do you guys think about the ungodly abominations to reality?
do you
Go
want me to
ahead,
go
Anthony.
first?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
This is S tier. This is the top of my list. I love aberrations. Beholders are my favorite creature in the entire game, period. Um, there is something about horror that cannot be like, I cannot emphasize it more, with that fear of the unknown that comes from aberrations. The less you understand something, the scarier it is. The far realm, to me, as scary as every other horrifying plane of existence is in Dungeons and Dragons, the far realm, I think that is the scariest place in the entire game's lore, period.
Hmm.
Um, just like, this tree grows fruit that swells to an immense size before it falls down and bursts and turns into 1,000 tiny flesh-sucking insects that scurry off into the fleshy bowels of the planet or whatever.
Hmm.
um I think aberrations have the potential to be some of the scariest things that you can throw at your players, and also like the thing that like Dead Space, for example. That's like one of my favorite horror
That is my
franchises.
favorite video game.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it honestly, I think it's one of mine, if not my favorite too. Like Dead Space, Silent Hill, Resident Evil. Like I love horror
it's
games a
too
lot.
scary
So
for me. I can't play it. Like I legit, I played Dead Space
oh, the
multiple times.
remake is fucking
Yeah.
terrifying. You never feel safe anywhere on the ship. But uh that's like a good example. It's like it's when you try to think about like how infinite space is in real life, like if you believe space is infinite, like you like scientifically, if you try to get your brain to sit there and think about what is infinity, what is that, your brain gets into a thought loop, and it actually is like it kind of scares you a little bit. That's how I feel aberrations are. You cannot grasp the concept of how a beholder came to be because they make no sense. Like
Hmm.
they are, in the current lore, they're born from dreaming of itself, and then like it spawns another one of itself out of a based off of a dream. Depending on what it dreams about, it could dream up a celestial beholder. The beholder could come out with these fleshy wings that like imitate an angel's wings, but they're made of just like flesh and tendons, and it's like disgusting.
Hmm.
I love body horror. I think aberrations are like the quintessential body horror. And also like, dude, imagine making an entire planet-sized aberration just slowly floating towards like the material plane, like the brother moon from Dead
Yeah,
Space.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the brother moons from Dead Space. that being your end game boss where you have to fight it. Imagine you, even as a level 20 character, you're a superhero paladin who has angel wings at this point. That's fucking terrifying. So that's me. I don't want to take up too much because I could go on forever. I love Aberrations, man. I just started with Beholder because that's like my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Let me hit you guys with some shit. So I put I'm gonna tell you my opinion first, and then I'm gonna explain myself.
Okay.
I put Aberrations squarely in the very center of my list. They are middle B tier for me. And I will tell you now that Mind Flayers are my favorite monster in D&D, next to Beholders are also my favorite monster in D&D. I have put a Beholder or a Mind Flayer in every game I've ever run. I fucking love them. The lore is incredible. I love the Beholders and Mind Flayers. I know everything there is to know about Mind Flayers. I love them. All the whole lore with the Gith Yankee, and I could literally give you a whole history lesson.
They're scary to fight too as a
Yeah.
player.
Oh my God, it's horrible. And it just the tentacles reaching out and grabbing on your face.
Ripping your brain out.
Dude, people lose their shit. I have my convention one shot that I always run at conventions has a mind flare as the main like bad guy at the end, the boss fight.
Yeah.
Just because it's nothing is scarier than a mind flare, in my opinion. Like in the game, the mind flare and a beholder, but beholder carries that weight of the game with it, right? Like it's called Dungeons and Dragons, but it really should be called Dungeons and Beholders because that's their poster child, right? But I think that Aberrations as a whole, right? So I can't, again, just like I did the Fae, I can't think about my favorite monsters because I'm not ranking monsters, right? I'm ranking the whole tier,
Right.
or the whole type. So the Aberrations, as represented in 5th edition, right, are basically like alien psychic reality warping creatures, right? I made a list of them, out of the ones that are notable: Aboleth, Beholder, Gibbering Mouther, Slod, Mind Flayers, Nothics, and Odiogs, right? I'd say a little more than half of them are basically the same creature with a different flavor, right? Like they're psychic and they can fuck with your brain, and encountering them is always weird and alien, right? So it doesn't, unlike like a monstrosity that has that versatility and uniqueness with every monster. I could lump a lot of aberrations into one sort of amorphous blob creature, and like it's literally called a gibbering mouth, right? Like, but you know what I mean? Like they're
If
all
you don't
kind
have
of the
high
same.
wisdom, you're screwed.
Right.
Monsters, basically.
Exactly. And like I could run an entire campaign on mind flayers and an entire campaign on beholders. Maybe slot, but no. You know what I mean? Other than those two, they're just like there for weird encounters. You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
Or they serve the weird guy, right? Like the mind flayer has all of these things as minions, right? So I feel like they're lacking in uniqueness. They're not all super unique. You could kind of lump it in, and I know S.O.C, you're gonna go on a whole thing about Aboleth because I know they're your favorite, but I really feel like an Aboleth and a Mind Flayer are the same thing. If you really boil them down to their core thing, they like mind control people and have slaves, and they use the slaves to fight the mind, to fight their enemies.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Nothics are cool too. I'm glad you brought Nothics up because those are really awesome monsters as well. They do I guess they do share a lot of the same themes. Like a lot of it has to do with the eye. Their eyes channel their magic energy into you, and like they stun you, they suck your brain out, they morph you into something. But I that's terrifying though. So
It is.
that's
I
why I
can't
like them
say
so
that they're,
much.
like I just said, mind flayers are my fucking favorite, dude.
For sure.
My favorite, bro. So I can't say that they're not good, but as a whole, it's hard to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see your standpoint. I'm blinded by my rose tinted
Oh yeah, no,
my
yeah,
fleshy aberration glasses that I have on my face.
I gotcha.
yeah.
Go ahead, so
I'm not gonna pretend to. This is one of those things where, like, out of all the types on the list, this one I don't have any, like, I have mechanical reasons and, like, like story reasons why I like aberrations the most. But more than anything, I can't act like it's not just pure bias, because I Lovecraftian and, like, cosmic horror and specifically is my favorite genre of fiction in general. Just because, like, it's not even like, yeah, it's scary, but it's scary in, like, a, like, train wreck sort of way, and, like, how it's so, like, I don't know how to. That's the thing. That's the thing, is that aberrations play upon that thing of, like, I don't know how to describe this. Like, like, a really, when you sell an aberration really well, it's like trying to describe a Lovecraft book to somebody. You're like, okay, so it's just like, you just got to read it. That's pretty much
yeah.
what it ends up being, and I think that's probably the most, like, quote unquote, like, aura out of, like, all the creature types I can think of, is just like it showing up is like, yeah, they end up lumping into the same thing, but I think that's also because they play upon the fact that it's a unknowable, like, eldritch thing. So the reason why it ends up being mind effects, like, as far as, like, thematics and everything goes, is just that it's not that what you're looking at is, like, some sort of, like, abomination to reality, or, like, a irregularity. It could be the scenario where obviously that depends upon, like, how you're doing with the setting and stuff and how you do aberrations. But especially with, like, Lovecraft and stuff, I'll get into my favorite creature in a second. But especially with Lovecraft, it's not that the you know thousand limbed monstrosity in front of you is some sort of irregularity with reality. Humans and, like, logical concepts that we understand about how reality works, that's the irregularity. The way they look at us is different, is even more so than, like, something like a dragon that views us as, like, a pet or something like that. And to an aberration, it's like, the only way to explain it is just like, do you pay attention, or do you care about the blade of grass that you walked over today? No, it's one of, an uncountable irrelevant number to you and everything. It's a blade of grass. That's the at most the recognition you're going to get from a true representation of an aberration. And my favorite kind of it specifically, it's not even for mechanical reasons, because I have homebrewed the hell out of this creature. I haven't used it yet, but the aboleth is my favorite monster in D&D, because it's pretty much just straight up ripped out from a Lovecraft book. I mean, it's probably the least subtle out of all of the like, creatures in, like, D&D, of, like, being an inspiration. Like, Mind Flayers have a lot of, like, original lore and stuff. So while they are still very Lovecraftian, they have original lore. Whereas an aboleth is basically just a creature from the Call of Cthulhu book. Like, it my favorite part about them, I'm trying not to go on to, like, a whole 30-minute thing, because I know we've been talking for a while. Um, my favorite thing about the aboleth is the lore that they existed before everything, and that's my favorite trope and stuff like that. Like, it's like, I remember in Adventure Time, the Lich was talking about, like, before everything there were monsters. So it's just like, it's that unquantifiable sort of quality to a creature that you can't really describe, but it leaves a mark. And the aboleth is my favorite just primarily for that. Like, they see gods the same way we see, like, other, like, like, new species we discover and everything. Like, oh, these upstart beings just, like, have the audacity to, yeah. And it's like, it's not even like they're chaos either. Like, aberrations, yeah, are very, like, mad, but we might be the ones that aren't thinking, like, properly and everything. They're just thinking on a higher level, so it appears to us as madness. So that's why I like the psychic. How common psychic is with them. Even
Yeah.
though, yeah, it does get kind of redundant with everything being psychic, but it's psychic for the reason of that you just can't understand it. That's not, and I think that's like a really cool, uh, trope with a, creature, entity.
Yeah, psychic's like a rare damage type too that mostly comes from like aberrations and stuff. So I think that's like a good iconic damage type for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um Another thing that I was kind of just thinking about while you were talking about like this like the kind of like they're incomprehensible too is like I like how it's kind of represented even in the beholder's stat block
Mm-hmm.
where its eye rays are all random. Like not
Mm,
even you, the guy running this thing that is beyond your comprehension, can comprehend what it's going to do next.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a weird like meta level cool
yeah.
thing about beholders too. um I did like how you just did that blade of grass analogy is a very well said representation of how these creatures see us. Like I was there when you were that primordial fish that crawled out on its belly onto land, and I watched you develop into these primates to then turn into what you are now, and you think you are above me and you can kill me. You are nothing to me. And like that's scary when something can have such little, like, not respect for you, but like it sees you as you are nothing to
Like it
it.
destroys you just by existing. Like it's destroying
Yeah.
everything around it and destabilizing everything just by existing. And I think the best ones are like the like Abla type creatures where it's like it's not you know, I don't know what the word for not sapient is, but it is a intelligent sapient.
Sentient.
Yeah, sentient, I guess. Yeah. It's not a non-sentient like creature most of the time with a lot of the aberrations and everything. It's just its intelligence is on a whole nother level than you can like understand that. Like, like I was saying, like it appears as madness, but the best ones to me, or like how I would specifically do that sort of thing, is that like a lot of times in Lovecraft's book, for example, people end up like turning to stone or dying just from the creatures gazing upon you. Like if you go to like the outer, like beyond like everything, even beyond like what Cthulhu is and stuff like that, there's like a god level entity that like turned to stone just from one of the entities that lives there just gazing upon them. And I think that's like the whole thing of like it's a different type of horror when you're being killed by something that isn't even meaning to. It's just existing, and it barely even acknowledges you as a thing.
Yeah, that's why
So
I've wanted to do a campaign that goes to the far realm, so players actually like, well, I don't know what's happening. The ground is made of flesh
right.
and shit. Sorry,
So
go.
the far realm is purposefully not flushed out in a
Mhm.
lot of lore for D&D
Mhm.
because it's like almost a joke, a meta sort of thing where it's like not even the people that make the game understand what the far realm is,
Yeah.
right? And that's fucking awesome,
It
right?
is,
Like
yeah.
that's super cool. And Sock, I totally feel you on like the way that you see aberrations, right? Like the way that you view them is very idealistic and I fucking love it. I have had a sort of I had like aberrations be a big deal. Like mind flayers were a big deal in one of my campaigns I ran, and
Mhm.
a creature in quotes contacted one of my players, and this thing said that like I'm contacting you now, but I've also contacted you 10 billion other times. And
Mhm.
I can see the future and I see the past and I see all other realities in which we have conversed, right? So it's like it exists in every moment, every day, all the time, in every aspect. That is fucking awesome, right? Like that is next
Mhm.
level. Can't fucking
Yeah,
understand
no, that's dope.
shit. So yeah, it's I do feel the vibe for that for sure. That's very awesome.
It's like that in Interstellar, spoilers for Interstellar, when they go to that what is the fourth dimension, or like the
Right.
4D plane of existence, and
Yes.
it's like you literally cannot comprehend it. It doesn't, like, we know that like if you pick something up and drop it, it falls. To an aberration, you could pick something up and it could float there and begin to rotate and rotate so fast that it becomes a black hole or something. And like that doesn't make sense to us, but to them it makes sense. And then that's why we go insane, because your brain like literally short circuits. I think like you should always try to be like ambiguous, because like when you read a book, the scariest part about like the book is like it's you imagine what you're reading as like the scariest possible thing that you can imagine. But
Yes.
whenever they turn it into a movie, it's that writer or that director's scary thought. And you're like, oh, that is terrifying. But
Mhm.
that's not what I was imagining.
Right.
So I do like that ambiguity with aberrations. There's not a lot of them in D&D, I guess. I have a lot of like Kobold Press books, and there's a lot of them in there.
Mhm.
But like really, you could go really off the wall with homebrewing aberrations, like a fat body with elephant trunks
Mhm.
for
Right. You could
appendages
do
or something.
anything.
I've had them in every
Yeah,
single campaign I've ever run. Like
I
Yeah.
have too. Me too. I think a behold, they at least, if they don't run into a beholder, they're gonna fight a gazer at some
Mhm.
point.
Right.
Something. They
No,
have
same,
to.
same, same.
Yeah, I
I'm a
love
big,
them
big
so
fan.
much.
Beholders are my favorite, one of my favorite monsters. Mind flayers are my number one.
I think.
But
Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say that I think there it is ultimately going to end up being. It's never going to be a good thing that an aberration is there, but I think there is beyond the surface level aspect of like, oh, when this thing shows up, everybody goes insane. It's also like from a thematic reason, the reason why you're going insane as well is like a lot of the things with like Lovecraft stuff is that um it is a thing where like people when people look at Cthulhu, for example, that they go insane, but it's not going insane just from yeah, part of it is because it's this incomprehensible foreign thing to your mind. But part of it is I remember hearing a really good like example or analogy from somebody that was like, imagine if an ant for a second was given human intelligence and like understood it, not only its place in the world, but the way the world works. Like that is like this like the world is big beyond it can even like it's so big that it can't even like, fathom it. And then after and then a split second later it's back to an ant's intelligence, but it still has the memories from when it like it's momentarily
Jesus
understood
Christ.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you're going insane from it. I think there's like they're also the type of creature as well. I think the out of any creature that I've ever ran is the one that appears the least amount of time. Well, I guess that's technically true and not true, but when they I don't just have them just show up. They're like campaign defining things that also like indicate towards like the actual cosmology of the world that they're in and stuff. But yeah, I think that's the cool part about it and everything is just the knowledge that they have. I think it would be a cool thing. I've never done it, but there is the concept. It's happened in a couple like Lovecraftian books of like where people have gotten like the answer to like a secret or like some sort of knowledge that they needed, and it was a good thing that they got it, but they also suffered from understanding too much more than their mind could handle. So
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's where Nothics come from, right? Nothics aren't like they aren't from the far realm. They are people
Mm-hmm.
that got a truth like that, and that's what they turned into.
Mhm.
Yeah. I didn't actually. I'm not super familiar with Nothics and everything, so I'm definitely gonna
I know
be
they
adding them.
I know it's like it has to do with like Vecna. He writes
Sometimes,
yeah, that's what I know of Nothics. Like Vecna writes some of his forbidden knowledge down in a tome and it's actually like a trap and then the wizard opens it and then like his body morphs into a Nothic
right?
after a while because he
Yeah,
loses
but
it, he goes
it's the
insane.
same. It's the same for any sort of forbidden knowledge, right? Like
Yeah.
if a person that studies the farm realm, like a wizard that studies the farm realm, can turn into a Nothic the
Mm-hmm.
same sort of way.
Yeah.
Just
That's
being
cool.
like understanding something that you're not supposed to
Yeah.
can sort of warp you into a Nothic.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Imagine turning one of your player characters into nothing. Okay, you lose all levels of wizard, you lose all your spells, you
That was a
gain
thing in one of my campaigns. That was a serious threat. Was
really
that yes,
that's awesome.
yes.
I actually made a magic item where it was like a book for it's called the Diabologue of the Rotted Tower. It's like a Vecna book where you could turn into a lich, but if you fail this really high DC 25 saving throw, you get cursed with arcane blight, and I think that's what turns you into a
That's what
Nothic.
turned. Yes, I
Yeah,
ran a Rime of the Frostmaiden. So yeah, that's what that's from.
yeah,
Uh,
it was like, oh, you get the arcane blight, and oh, one day goes by, you're fine. Then you like you don't trust anybody. Your hair starts falling out. Then
your
like you,
eyes start to get
yeah,
crooked, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that
uh,
is exactly what happened in my game.
for from the player's standpoint, your precious character that you wrote all this lore for turning into something like that. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing that hits them harder than something. It's like, dude, that's not the ending I wanted for him. I wanted him to marry his paladin wife and,
Yeah.
and retire, but he turned into a Nothic. But it's also memorable. He'll be telling that story for years. Well, oh yeah, one of my players or one of my characters turned into a Nothic. It was pretty. It sucked, but it was pretty sick.
I
Yeah.
also do want to mention that along with the Far Realm, the Underdark is probably my favorite setting
Oh yeah,
within like fifth edition and everything. Not even just the fifth edition, but just in general with like D&D and stuff. The Underdark is like such a cool vibe because it's grounded enough to like let you have like a variety. It's not just aberrations down there, but there's a reason why they're so common down there is that like uh it's grounded enough to like make it so it's not too much. It's not Lovecraft all the time, but it is a very disturbing area. Like even the nature itself. That's part of the reason why I like aberrations as well, is their effect on the environment. Like the aboleth makes their like surfaces nearby within like a mile like slimy and like all that sort of
yeah,
stuff. And the Underdark, it's pretty much like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like D&D's version. It's like the Forgotten Realms version of Australia, almost. Like it's
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And I love Drow and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I was
So
about to
I
say
love going
Drow.
dark.
Mhm.
Drow are pretty awesome.
That, and I think Jay, you mentioned Myconids earlier. I just started looking into
Myconids.
Myconids. It's just that you also can like it doesn't always just have to be everybody's going insane type of thing for Lovecraftian stuff. Because part of the thing with Lovecraft is it's like it's almost I feel like in D&D terms would be like synonymous with like weird magic, like that same sort of vibe where it's like this like force of the universe that like is just beyond your understanding, but it's also weird. Like there's just weird shit like Myconids that are basically just like hippie like mushroom hippies and everything. And
Right.
it's
Yeah,
so yeah.
Fun with
psionics
their
connects to
spores.
the weave in a different way than like a regular wizard, right? Like if you have psychic abilities, you connect with the weave in a way that your brain itself is a conduit for channeling the weave. You don't need a focus or
Mhm.
to do the somatic components, right? Your brain does it for you. Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
The
Mhm.
Kuatoa also are another one that I like just
Fuck
because
yeah.
Those are awesome.
Fucking
yeah.
Kotar are the
Just
best.
creating gods,
Gods,
just
awesome shit.
constantly. Yeah.
I fucking love the Kotar, man. They're great.
I need to run those more, honestly,
I've
because
never run them before, yeah.
those can create any creature that you can conceive. Like, oh, it's a giant, like half angel fish god, and like,
Hmm.
what the hell is that thing? Where are these things coming from? Oh, well, it turns out there's a cave not too far from here where these Kuatoa just keep coming up with gods and
Yeah.
releasing them into the world.
The best thing is when they what it, like from what I understand, they build the effigy and then that is what their god looks like. So like
Mhm.
I imagine like they take a masthead from a crashed ship and it's like a mermaid and then they like
Yeah.
put some sticks on it and then that just is like what their god is. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
like comes
Some
out.
kind of fucked up looking whatever, you know.
Yeah. It's
Great
awesome.
stuff. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Kuatoa too. Big fan.
Hmm.
All right.
But yeah, did you guys have any sort of closing comments or any other like things you wanted to say about any other types of creatures or creature types and stuff?
I think we covered everything as
Yeah.
far as I'm aware. I think we had some pretty good discussions for each creature type. Um I can't think of any more off the top of my head.
Hmm.
I it's really cool, and I love discussing stuff like this with other dungeon masters because it's so fun to hear other people's perspectives on
For sure.
things, and like even just seeing things from another perspective kind of changes my opinions a
Hmm.
lot. So, it's
Definitely.
really fun.
Definitely. Yeah, I appreciate you setting this up.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Saga,
no,
for
I
inviting me.
had I had tons of fun. I was really looking forward to this all week. So I had tons of fun. I always love talking about like any excuse that I can have to talk about like D&D and like all that sort of stuff and hearing about people's thoughts about other things is always super dope for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Definitely the both Anthony and Jay's channels are going to be in the description. So click on their channels and check out their stuff. They're super dope. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening and peace out.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.